help address it. Oh, hold on. Hold up. I just realized my Discord didn't unmute. Give me a second. Try it now. See if it's picking up. Hold on 1 second. Little technical issue here, guys. There we go. Now you're live.
Are we good?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. So the issue of blobbing is one that has come up quite a few times, and it's a difficult situation. It's not one that has a single solution or a single remedy. The fact is that there are several guilds that have been on this game for years and years, and if they feel like it, they can quite easily dominate the zone. Certain guilds are able to absolutely slaughter everything in their path when they are fully set up, and that means that often in the zones, people feel they have no choice but to blob up, which is completely understandable. But at the same time, those same guilds will say how much they hate blobbing up. And then they will also do it on other nights. So it's not a situation that has a single solution. I think it is quite a natural part of the game in many ways. No matter what you do, if you start stomping other team, they're gonna blob up. I mean, last night, for example, we had a really, really fun warband. Things were going really, really well, but we started to dominate a little bit too much, and that led to Destro running 4 or 5 warbands around the zone. Which meant that we then got 3 warbands together and started doing the same. It's not as easy as just saying, "Oh, let's not do it," because otherwise one side will just get stomped.
Sure.
The ways around it are through communication, which many guild leaders, well, not guild leaders, sorry, warband leaders, created a Discord channel to talk about it and to discuss who was going on what side and what zone people will be fighting in to try and make things more even. And that worked okay for a few weeks, but naturally, as you can imagine, having a Discord with a bunch of warband leaders in it, things broke down pretty quickly, especially with how much drama there is between certain guild leaders. And I'm not meaning any singular person here. I'm not trying to call anybody out by saying that. Just, there is a lot of drama between. So we did try that for a while. Fortunately, that line of communication has broken down now. But I do think that the AO system does work. There could be possibly some additions or refinements to it to make things less challenging on the team that's just getting completely wrecked by a Zerg, and to disincentivize blobbing up more than 2-3 warbands. There could be something done there. What that is, I couldn't say. I haven't really put too much thought into the alteration side of things.
I heard about the attempt to try to even things out to promote healthy gameplay on the server between the warband leaders. I heard about it. I know there was a breakdown in communication. Don't know what the details were. Don't want to know. It's not my business. People were saying there was people being hotheads, and that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Is how one warband leader literally will not communicate real well with another one, or will fail to relay a message. I use this example months ago, or back when Rhett was still leading Retribution. Okay, he pleaded with Rolgram to tell him, okay, where are you engaging at so we can cover your flank. Rolgram runs in, charges headlong into Destro. No word, no communication. He wipes, and then he starts screaming at Rhett that we failed, we screwed up. And I said something right then and there. I'm like, nope, nah. And I fired right off at Rolgram in regional. Because I'm not putting up with that. That's BS. That goes to that whole bit of You failed to communicate what you're doing when you have someone there that's pleading with you to tell them what you're doing so we can coordinate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, there are certain warband leaders who don't like to communicate too much. They like to be doing their own thing, which is a play style. But then quite often Rolgrim will be the one. I don't want to say anybody's name personally, but quite often they will be the ones who then call for blobbing up later, which is kind of, choose what you want to do, dude. Do you want to communicate with us, or do you want to just do your own thing? Don't go back and forth like this,
Yeah. Make
But
make
at
a
the same
choice and
time, like,
stick with it.
stick to it. Yeah, for sure. But at the same time, like, I know from experience of running warbands how difficult it can be to, on top of everything you're doing in your warband, be communicating with region, be watching the chat when you're on disc and you're fighting constantly and you're trying to swap up players and things like that. It can become just far too much, which is definitely an issue that I've had in the past, and I know that other warband leaders have told me in the past. It's because the last thing you want is to have too many people in your Discord, and that looks really, really bad if you do that. So, yeah, it is a challenge. I mean, on the busiest nights, it's very difficult to communicate on the kind of regional basis at times.
Yeah, that's something I've seen it tried off and on, and it does work when it's flawless. Your warband leader needs someone that's dedicated full time, that's just watching regional to relay.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that it's you need again. It boils down to a chain a command team. You need one person that at all times is essentially your eyes and ears for regional. So if another warband calls out something, even if it's a pug, and the pugs are usually pretty good at saying what they see. You got to give
Yeah,
them that. So
yeah. I mean, we've got some great pug leaders for
yeah,
sure,
and you
and all
know
respect to them.
that's all things need to be incorporated. There's opportunity to improve the play style and make changes that need to happen that would make things more fun for people. I just, for the life of me, do not understand why people, and this is why I say it boils down to people's egos, is they have this mindset, well, my way is the only right way, I'm going to do my way, everybody else can fend for themselves. And I get that out of
Yeah,
a lot of people, and I'm like, that fool bravado is going to get you killed. And then you're going to
for
fuss
sure.
about, well, I'm not getting any renown.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
what do you expect? You're trying to play a multiplayer game with a solo mindset.
I would also say that another complication we have is that a lot of these zones just weren't designed for tier 4 combat. If you take, let's say, Empire Tier 2, great
Yeah,
map. I love Empire Tier 2. But the war camps are, what, 150 yards away from each other?
yeah,
And you prime time, you've got 200 players on each side, and it just feels like you can't move sometimes. You cannot go anywhere. High Pass is another example, a zone that wasn't really designed for this many people. In EU prime time, I'm not a fan of High Pass at all because, again, the war camps are just so close together
yeah.
that
Well,
you don't really have much choice but to be in a blob just because there ain't really much
yeah.
places to go.
Well, I think the thing is there too is the fact that during live, now this I remember during live, you also had the tiers with the larger population. You had the tiers split up, so you would have tier 4 would be
Yeah,
fighting in tier 4 zones, and then you'd have
yeah,
mid tiers fighting in mid tier zones, and tier 1 fighting in tier 1 zones. You don't have
yeah,
that now because of the lack of population. You could
yeah,
re-implement that, but this is where it would fall on people to basically break into smaller teams and try and again, big surprise, we
yeah.
camp into
So
the
I saw
war camp.
I saw a post recently on the forums about re-implementing the mid tier, at least just having it in three tiers rather than just two. And it would incentivize a lot of people to make alts again. People would enjoy that experience. I think people would really like that. And sometimes the server definitely has enough population to be dealing with it. Personally, I feel at least there are weeks that we go through where the server seems pretty quiet, but I think in general the server would have enough population where there'd be at least a warband on each side in the tier 2 zones.
Yeah.
And it would make a really nice change of pace, I think, because at the moment, the leaving tier 1 is a really jarring experience,
Yeah.
especially for new players. Like
Yeah.
if you never played it on live and you're a new player, I can't imagine that move to tier 4 is much
Basically
fun.
bring back the tier 2 fighting even in the lakes area, so it would
Yeah,
basically break up. It would also go a long way to breaking up the blobs, because what would
yeah,
happen is you would see the mid-level players stay in those tier 2 areas fighting. You'd still have the tier 4 players doing their thing.
yeah, and it also give just a few more options as well. Like if it's really horrible out in the tier 4 zones, all right, I've got level 32. Whatever, I'll go and do some
Sure,
mid tier.
sure. You're welcome to join in, Tosh. I'm in my general channel since my live channel's not working properly right this minute.
Hi, Tosh, if you're on the way.
He's coming. It takes him a minute. I'll have to figure out what's going on with my live channel, why it auto muted,
No problem.
or what exact where the setting is and how to undo it.
I'm no expert in Discord, so apologies.
Yeah, I've been slowly trying to change over to Gilded as a backup, because Discord has been getting increasingly more compromised and stuff, and Gilded works a lot like Discord with all the settings, very similar setup, so easy to carry everything over, but doesn't use near as many resources as Discord, and doesn't have near the problems with the hackers.
What will be the point in hacking Discord? What are we going to get from it?
Because
Oh, my
of
feet
late
picked.
you've
We're going
had
to get my feet
because of late you've had people getting their you've had emails getting hacked, and all kind of stuff.
Fair enough.
The clan I'm part of, World of Warships, we just lost our 3,500 man clan Discord because of a
Oof.
hacker,
Ouch.
and turned out the problem was through Steam, a game on Steam that's compromised. The Steam download itself is got a malware in it, and our clan leader notified Steam. Steam's response was, "It's not our problem. Contact the devs." The devs apparently know that it's compromised and don't care. They've taken to banning anyone that has said anything about the hack. So,
Fantastic.
yeah, they nailed a number of streamers and communities, and it crippled quite a bit. We're just now start we're just now starting to get things rebuilt. It caused immense havoc.
What was the name of the game? Just so I know. Or do you not want to say publicly?
Hold on. I had it tip my tongue and
Quick test.
Hello, hello.
Tosh,
How's it going, dude?
you guys have the floor for a minute while I pull it up, because I had it posted.
No problem. Tosh, I know that you've been on the podcast a few times. I've heard you join before. Um, is there any topics that you think have come up recently which you find particularly interesting?
Maybe he's still tinkering with settings.
No problem.
Summoner's Tale is the name of it. So for the love of
I think I've
God,
heard of that.
For the love of God, do not download that game for any reason.
Nice, cool, thanks.
Because apparently what it does is when it is downloading and installing, it puts multiple third-party tracker programs, and it pulls your personal email, it key logs your Discord password, but it also goes off after any credit card, banking information. It does some damage.
The full works, huh?
Yeah. How's it going? Great crusade. We're just having a general discussion concerning RoR and some of the things with communication between war bands and thought processes and so forth. Waiting on Tosh at the moment. Doing all right. I suppose. You have to forgive my stutter, Chad. I normally have a co-host in here with me that is my voice for me. Well, I heard you for a minute, Tosh, and then you cut out. All right. Well, I'll give you a bit and see if you can fix it, and then you're welcome to jump into the conversation. But yeah, it's say that again.
I think I got it fixed.
Yeah.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you.
My apologies.
You're fine. But welcome to the RoR Podcast episode 23. I'll really celebrate when I hit episode 100. What's your thoughts on what you've heard us talk about so far there, Tosh?
I actually haven't listened to the podcast up until right now, to tell you the truth. So I have missed the entire conversation.
We were talking about various warband lead and then lack of communication and how it's played a role in things and how it's led to some infighting and tempers flaring and how play styles have been affected by it. Trying to come up with some, hopefully, maybe come up with a way to get around that. Get people to realize that you can combat the Zerg playstyle by introducing actual tactics that could tear apart the Zerg. And I've seen warband leaders that do pull that off and actually do pick apart the Zerg. You just have to go at it with tactics that force the Zerg to break apart. Not easy, but it can be done. And thank you for the follow. Yeah, I've seen Get Bane lead a few. I fought against him more than a few times. I mean, a tactic I've seen Destro use quite well, and Order falls for it a lot. They'll send in a half-size warband. They'll basically engage a full order warband, then break off, order chases. This is the part that drives me crazy with order. Order doesn't pay attention to the fact they've got flanks, and Destro is just waiting. People will say, Destro's on our flanks. It'll get called in regional. Warband on your flank. Order is just blindly charging after because they're fixated on those kills instead of the battle itself. And that boils down to the play. Sure. That boils down to bad player awareness, or they're not paying attention and they're too fixated on their precious KD count, which is something I get irritated with. I'm like, you'll get you'll get your kills in the course of the general fighting for the zone. So don't worry about the kills. Focus on the battle and pay attention.
Yeah.
Stop. It makes it too predictable. I watch Destro do this. All they got to do is wave some kills in front of Order, and Order will blindly chase it. Every time. And when I'm on Destro working on quest guides, I watch the region chat, tier 4 chat, and to Destro it's a big joke because they know they've got Order's number. They simply wave a carrot in front of you. You chase it, and that's it.
I think one of the issues with that is that Destro has a lot more experienced pre-made warbands, should we say. If on a given night, Order might have 2 or 3 experienced warbands with warbands leaders, and then you'll have a lot of pug groups, a lot of newer guild groups that just don't have the experience or the gear to kind of deal with those situations. It's one of the reasons I have never played Des myself, because playing Order all the time, Des just don't need any help. They've got plenty going on for themselves already. I mean, I would love to go and play some Des, but to be honest, Order needs people experienced in the zones.
Well, part of the reason, and I've seen this right from the jump since I started playing on the server, even when I was in Bitterstone, that's of Order's own doing because of the animosity they got towards one another. They don't trust one another, or they look down their noses at each other. There was people in Bitterstone that openly said they would stand there and watch people die rather than help them. They would only help people in their own guilds or own alliances. And I've seen it in Salt Factory. I've seen it in almost every single guild. Gimli, Vanguard, many others. That needs to stop. That's Order doing it to itself. The mindset's been created of don't trust, don't help each other, don't do anything to work together. And then this.
I don't personally agree with that view. In all honesty, I know that I think that the guilds who are more like that are the ones who are playing both sides, and they have they play Des one night and Order the other. And I'm not talking like cross roaming. I'm talking about people who just their guilds do switch between them on different nights, and I know that they have a lot of animosity between each other.
Okay.
I mean that's the reason that Ret originally came to Order side, right? It's because of the amount of frustration they felt about other warband leaders, to put it lightly.
Well, I'm going to use something as an example because I've heard this out of members of the guild, and I've been present for it. The comments of, the heck with, I'm not going to use exact language, but the heck with the pugs, use them as cannon fodder, they're not good for anything. That's come out of our own guildies. That mindset needs to stop. That's some of the same crap I've been trying to combat. That doesn't help anyone. No, hold on. Hear me before
right.
You start. Hear me out.
Of course.
All that does is reinforce an elitist mindset of I'm better than you are. and you throw the pugs under the bus, when I've seen pugs fight tooth and nail just as good as any pre-made warband. They may not win, but they will hang in a fight to the bitter end, just like any pre-made. They won't run. But yet I've had it come out of the mouths of some of our own guildies that they think that pugs are nothing more than a waste of space.
Well, I wouldn't hold that view that you're talking about. However, there is definitely a point where you've been running for ages on a night and the pugs are just always in the wrong spot and they're not backing off when they need to be backing off, and they're rushing into things that they shouldn't be rushing into. And it gets to the point where you are unable to rely on them or trust them to be doing not what they need to be doing, because hell, play the game however you like. But how often should our warband be stopping them from dying because they're in the wrong spot? You know? And I'm not saying agreeing with the idea that pugs are useless or anything like that, because that's not the way that. I mean, I was a pug leader way before I was a warband leader, and I wouldn't agree with that view whatsoever. But at the same point, if they're spending the entire night on Martyrs Square in Prague and they just go back and forth from the wall camp, leave them to it. If they want to sit there and get farmed by a couple of pre-made warbands and they don't want to, spread around the zone, go look for other smaller fights, things like that. I can only tell them, 5-10 times before I'm done. Let them do it.
Yeah, that I get, but what my here's the thing. Have we tried to? We need to try and help those pugs learn. Sure, try to talk to them and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Don't just focus on that aspect. If that's what they choose to do, then yeah, we leave them and we move on to something else. That I get, but too often it tends to be the case of don't bother, leave the pugs. They're cannon fodder, and I hear that very frequently.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do know what you mean for sure.
And that needs to stop. We're robbing ourselves of a chance to help teach newer people, or maybe even give them our point of view, and maybe it'll help them learn something new, or we could learn something new from them. Bottom line,
yeah,
we could improve overall, and that's being thrown to the curb in favor of I'm better than you are my mindset.
Yeah, I don't know many guilds that have sorry, that's not true. I don't regularly play with many warband leaders who take the view of, they're definitely there, but I don't personally play with them very often of the, we're better than them type mindset. But it is definitely out there. I wouldn't disagree on that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm very outspoken on these things because I know it. I say what I know needs to be said because I want to see the community improve.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my only concern. I'm not saying it to try to just start stuff. I want people to improve. I want people to work together. I want people to have fun. Nobody plays this game to be miserable. and
yeah, I mean, pug warband leaders are the kind of core of the server in so many ways. Without the people who lead those pug warbands, I mean, we've got some great pug warband leaders on Order. Des have some extremely dedicated pug warband leaders who, they're the center of the game in very many ways. They keep things going. They keep the game alive. They keep giving new people a chance to enjoy what the game is. So pug warband leaders have I used to do a lot of pug warband leading. I don't do it so much anymore, just because the guild itself is so active these days and we've got such a good group of people.
Yeah, you got your hands full of what you're doing. But yes, you started out as a pug band, and your first baptism by fire was basically saying, here you go, lead this.
Yeah,
remember
his skills.
I was there.
And it's taken 6 months of rebuilding, but now we're stronger than we ever were. So it's fantastic. Like I was just thinking about this the other day, how like grateful I am and thankful that I am for how everything is going with our guild and how much I'm enjoying it these days. There was a point a couple of months back where I was kind of just I really wasn't feeling it at all. But these days it's just going from strength to strength. Some of our warband nights over the past couple of weeks have been some of the best game time I've had on this game, and I'm very lucky and very thankful for that. It's really really great. The community we have is just unreal. So yeah, it's nice. But yeah, like I was saying, Pug Warband leaders, they have Heratonin on order. It's just one example of really really strong people. We've got people like Zorbax, Grufrip, who have my utmost respect for what they do. There's Chimp, but screw that guy. Sorry, I mean not screw that guy. I didn't mean to say that. Sorry.
I get it. I've I started out warband leading alongside of Ultramar. That's me, him, and Sproximus. We would lead Pug warbands, and we would regularly fight Gruffrip, FMJ. Now this was when FMJ was in its heyday, and when they were abusing the fire pots badly. Oof.
Yeah.
That was horrendous. And when I say abusing, I mean like as soon as they would engage, it would disconnect our entire warband. We'd die. We'd be like, okay, we're dead. We'd come back. We'd fight them again. We got to where our only way to stop them, we'd have to force them into a bottleneck. Anything to prevent them from doing that, because they would do it every single time without fail. But once we figured it out, we're like, okay, so this is their whole strategy. They just rely on causing a mass disconnect, get the kills, and then move on. So let's rob them of that advantage. And as soon as we did, guess what? We had them.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fair while ago, I think, right?
But yeah, it's been a few
kind of stuff where it would encourage blobbing. If you're up against that, it's no surprise that people are like, we've now got to blob up. We can't be fighting.
It did. That really did bring the blobbing out in force, because FMJ would roll out and they would just wipe entire zones, and it would be nothing for them to tear apart 2-3 war bands. A lot of it would be DCs, and I would watch the screen disconnect, and it would, as soon as the fight would start, you'd see the fire pots go off, mass disconnect, come back, you're dead.
Yeah.
And they do it every single time. They're the reason why those fire pots were removed.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I think that the game is in. I know people speak quite negatively, but I think the game's in a really good state at the moment. Maybe it's just because I have the guild behind me, and that changes a lot of how I view the game, at least. But personally, I think the game's in quite a good state. Like I personally have quite good relationships with many of the warband leaders. Evil, we talk. Broder's almost a friend. Gruffrip, I find hilarious to fight against. Garamar is a great guy. I don't have any personal issues with really anybody in the game. I think that a lot of that did happen, but I think that's kind of a bit of an old guard of players who are definitely still around. Then there's so many newer players that are doing their own thing in the zones now, but it's not. I personally don't see that as such an issue as it potentially was, a year and a half ago, when it seemed like a lot of stuff happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. There's definitely possibilities. Here's my suggestion, and this is basic observation. I would re-explore reforming those warband leaders, both sides. Have a roundtable meeting. I would love to get those warband leaders on the podcast to have them talk.
I think that would melt down quite quickly, my friend, especially if you want to avoid profanity on your podcast.
Thank you for the raid. Hello, Gigi. Hopefully you had a good one. I know you was fighting in Dragon Weight earlier because I ran into you. Thank you for the raid. Welcome, raiders. You just come in as I'm doing my podcast. We're talking about various things. You want a good fight. Here's something I would recommend. You need to reach out to. You'd have to talk to him slowly because he'd have to translate it. You need to set up a warband to fight at the times GG is on, and you would have a good fight. You want a good solid fight? There you go. Retribution.
Yeah, I mean, I always
see Formosa.
I always see Gigi in the lakes, but then he just disappears after we see him.
Well, he moves around. Gigi is very much lightning warfare, blitzkrieg.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
And I've after running with him for so long, because that's how my warrior priest got to renown rank 80. But yeah, I would say, Gigi, I don't know if you're listening or reading what's going across my CCTV screen right now, but if you're open to it, I wouldn't mind seeing Formosa and Retribution square off. I mean, you guys bring your A game, Retribution bring their A game, and go at it. I mean, no holds barred.
I mean, I used to play with Gigi a lot while he was on border side. Not so much recently because I've been more focused just on like the late evening EU time. It's just the time I have. But when I used to play during more daytime EU, I used to run them quite a bit out in the lakes. Yeah, it's having Rolgrim and Gigi over on the order side is nice. I think that's good. They're good people to fight for sure. Active in the zones and things. I like I would say, I don't think Des particularly needs any help on their side, as it were, whereas Order does.
Yeah. But I keep wanting to. The reason I would like to have the warband leaders on the podcast is so that they could share their different viewpoints on warband leading, encourage more people to want to warband lead.
Yeah.
I would strongly suggest the warband leaders try to maybe reform that Discord, and even if it's just a select few, maybe piece something together among the warband leaders that actually can talk to one another without it falling apart. Start small, as it were. Build on those who are willing to balance it out, and then expand, if that makes sense. Try something, because something's got to give in general, because what's going on now is not really working so well.
Yeah, well, Mr. Mojo from our guild, he recently put a forum post giving his kind of advice to new warband leaders and pug warband leaders. It didn't get much traction on the forums, but I would have loved for people to be able to promote that a bit, just so there's a bit of information for new people who want to try. I know that he was recently talking to a guy called Command on the server, and he was going to start trying to pug warband more often. Yeah, things like that are really, really good.
I've seen Command a few times. He formed a warband earlier. Or was trying to. I try to help pug warband leaders where I can. If I know that's what they're doing, I'll help them, because I get people that come in my stream and they're looking for groups. So I'll funnel them to that group and be like, hey, go talk to this person. So if you want to put out word to those leaders, say, hey, drop by Toss stream. I can help relay, help the communication factor.
Yeah.
So there's options. There's ways. The forums, honestly, I don't bother with them much because that happens a lot. That's why I started the podcast, is because there needed to be a way for the community to talk to the devs, and so far it's had pretty good success versus trying to post stuff on the forums and then it just gets lost.
It does, yeah.
And
sure.
even Max has said that. He said, we appreciate what you're doing. It's helping us because we can hear and see what the community's thinking versus having to spend hours trying to dig through the forums, and we just don't have the time to do that.
Fuck happened?
Yeah.
Language.
What the fuck happened?
Language, please. Hey, Tosh.
You're right there, Tosh.
I think Discord's having a connection fit on him. And what's your take, Chad? I mean, you're part of this conversation too, guys. Please feel free to weigh into it. I saw what Great Crusade said, and he was right. We do need to encourage more out of the box thinking, get more people in, help things grow. We want people to step up. We want more activity. More war bands means more chances for fun. Gotta add real quick. So 2 minute break.
Yeah, sure.
On a slight note, Order is continuing to get bashed horribly in SCs, as you can see on my stream. Not that that's anything new, really.
What do you think personally? Do you think that the server has enough population to open up a third tier of RVR? Like a mid-tier?
I would like.
And what do you guys in chat think?
I think. Well, chat can't hear just yet. It's still saying 1 minute on the ad break.
Yeah, if you could open that up to them, it'd be nice.
Yeah, that's true. Got 10 seconds when the ad break. Says it'll be over on my end. Must be slow delay. Yeah, that it could work during EU prime time, but during NA it wouldn't work at all because NA just does not have the pop to drive it. But EU, yeah, it would definitely change how some things work there.
Even if it was just tier 2, like maybe 17 to 30, you know? How many people that really remove? Yeah, I guess if you're in that bracket during NA times, yeah.
Well, type that in guild and see what the guild says. Tell them what we're talking about on the podcast, because I don't think any of them are listening, and see what kind of response you get out of that one. That should be interesting, given some of the characters that are on right now. I think it would probably work real well with EU primetime, because look at what happens with T1. People get frustrated with Tier 4 and they'll go to T1 real quick. They'll jump on alts.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I used to love mid-tier back on live. You know, I preferred it mid-tier to Tier 4 in many ways. I used to really, really enjoy the mid-tiers. But I guess that was because I had like a twinked out renown 70, level 39 Black Orc. Just used to go run around smashing people. Used to be a lot of fun back in those days.
I'm not gonna do much solo. Solo Slayer usually equals dead Slayer, at least for me.
Unless you're Tosh.
I have no luck most of the time getting groups or anything from a Slayer. Got in a group earlier, and the healers informed me that they would not heal Slayers.
Nice. Always a good choice.
Said that we were a wasted effort because we die too easy.
I mean, I do die pretty easy.
Yeah, well, I'm like, no kidding. It's the mechanics of our class. We don't have armor genius.
Have you been trying out the test server much?
No, I've got my hands full working on stuff for the devs. I've really gotta get the quest guide for Destro done, and then I got some other stuff that I'm waiting on the pipeline to work on.
Yeah.
So no,
yeah, I haven't had much time to jump on this stuff.
Haven't had time to jump on it. Too much
Yeah.
to do. There's more quests. There's more quest stuff I have to be working on officially, and that's all I can say there.
You can privately whisper it to me. It's fine.
No. Now, maybe if we talking some compensation, you want to talk money, we'll no, forget it. Not happening. Can't be bought. Not for all the gold in the world. Which, oddly enough, I actually had somebody back when I was working on the Kill Collector quest before it got introduced and stuff. Somebody found out that I was doing quests right, and they were trying to find out what I was working on, and they offered to pay me, and I was like, no. They're like, everybody has a price. I'm like, no.
One thing I would love to see from the server is more cosmetic options. I know it seems like a silly thing, but personally I love the cosmetic side of things. That's why my
if I'm not mistaken, Techno did mention something about they were trying to work on updating and add new cosmetic looks for stuff, and they've asked repeatedly for people to. The part of the reason they don't have that is that they need people that can do graphics rendering to do that kind of stuff. So anybody has any experience with 3D rendering stuff that wants to do that kind of stuff, to submit it by all means.
That would be fantastic. Even if, I mean, we could just get the appearance of the God, what was the set called from Tovel? The Land of the Dead gear sets that looked rad. like the Chosen had like a Zinch themed armor set from TOVL. Tyrant, yes, thank you, Tempe's Tyrant. That would, if we could just get the cosmetics out of that, that would be great. I'd love it.
Yeah.
Just a few more options,
What I would love to see is to see actual gear sets themed for each of the chaos gods, so that you can actually have completely different armor sets for each. So if you're if you're you like Grandfather Nurgle, you can put on a set for him or any.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I would like to see some diversity.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much they could do. I mean, the lore and the art style of Warhammer Fantasy is just so fantastic. I mean, it's just amazing. It'd be lovely to get some more of the kind of themes that they had going into the game.
Well, it looks like Etain has degenerated into the ever lovely bog. Yeah. They're literally right here in the middle, and it's just gridlock.
Oh, you're doing a good old mid zone camp. Love it.
Yes. Yeah, if you can call it that. Actually, let me try the other way.
How was your grind to, what was it, 85 you were looking for now?
I'm 82.
You got all 80.
I'm 82 on every tunic set Slayer.
Nice. Very nice.
The way things are looking, I should be able to hit 85. It'll probably be the coming year before I hit it on all of them. But the plan is to hit 85 on all 5 tunes same day. So I'll level them all to 84 to like that last half bar before ding, and then try to time it to where I'm in some battles to get the last little bit that I need.
I remember last time on the podcast you were talking about like having at least semi-random double renown, double experience events and things.
Yeah,
I think that's a really nice, really interesting idea.
Techno and Max have both talked about having it more frequently.
Yeah, could be really fun. I mean, if you think how, I mean, I don't particularly enjoy the last double renown event just because all the Des guilds went absolutely crazy, and it was often just retribution versus the world. It felt like, but it brings a lot of life to the server for sure.
Yeah. I'm just getting run over. I don't want to jump on one of my healers, which I know if I did, I could get in a warband real easy. Because everybody either needs a healer or a tank. And I'm just like, no, I want to level my Slayer.
Well, do you have enough crests for your, what's it called? Warlord set? Just go Warlord and switch spec.
I bought the Triumphant set based on what Blood told me. No, I don't have enough to do the other.
So I think I've got all sets now on my Slayer. I think. I keep meaning to spend a day in full Warlord and solo target spec. See how that goes. That'll be fun.
The idea for the universal currency, Great Crusade, was to make it easier for people to level and gear, as opposed to having to save up tokens for each individual gear set, how it used to be. Because what was happening is by the time you got enough of any one of the tokens, you'd already out-leveled, and you just didn't need the gear. So the idea was to just create a universal currency so that it could cope with it and make it easier to get your gear sets.
Yeah, I definitely agreed with the single currency.
That's always been there. The prerequisite that's been there. That's always been there. You've never been able to skip. That's true. Yeah, Albin. Welcome to the discussion. Non-set item slots are criminally neglected while leveling. There's a lot of non-set pieces that are very good that could easily bo- help you out greatly, and a lot of people just don't. They don't even bother.
Yeah. One example would be the at level 36, you can get those lion marks with
I
the
was
AP pump.
yeah. So hold
Nobody
on.
knows about those.
Yeah, hold on a second. Now, I was here before they did the universal currency, Great Crusade. It's you couldn't skip anything. You had to get the previous set in order to unlock the next one. It's never been where you could skip. Oh, here comes the second war band. Bro fix. And I'm dead. Sorry about that. Continue what you're saying.
Yeah, there is a lot of items in the game that are so useful for leveling that some people just don't know about. The PvE sets are one, but there's also several like jewelry sets and things, not sets, but jewelry pieces that are tremendously useful while leveling that very few people know about. The classic one would be the lion marks from the, what map is it? Talabek land. If you fly to Talabek land, there's some vendor there that sells AP pumping jewelry, which is just huge for people while they're leveling, but nobody really knows about it.
Yeah, there's a lot there. It's like with the quest, like some of the things people have found with the quest guides I've done so far for dark elves and orcs. They're like, I didn't know this item had AP on it, or didn't know it was would help in this tier. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff you didn't know, but I'm just not gonna be able to do anything by myself because I'm set up to run in a warband. I'm just not set up to solo. So I mean, there's gear out there beyond the sets if people would take the time. That's something I've tried to point out to people. They wonder, how is it how Destro tends to outgear Order in tier one, and in the mid tiers. I'm like, have you ever stopped to wonder how they're geared? They take the time to go and get all these odd and end gear pieces, and Order doesn't. You got so many people that they just PvP, so they miss out on a lot of the in between gear that would help them. They don't go and try to get any of the stuff that's out there. They only focus on Warcrest and what they can get from the vendors. Been a little over five years ago now. I've been following along with it longer than that, but little over 5 years of playing it, and then I played during live.
Final test. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Finally, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Hi there. How you doing, man?
How's everyone doing?
Yeah, real good.
Doing all right. Watching the cluster that's going on in Attain, waiting on a SC to see what happens.
I'm just killing witch elves in the keep.
I keep meaning to try out that solo spec Slayer. How do you find it? Do you still enjoy it? You've been doing it for ages, right? What renown was your Slayer now?
He's just a hair away from 94.
Yeah, man, madness.
Yeah.
I've been playing him solo since 2017, late 2017.
Oh wow, that's some real dedication to the cause there, my friend. Nicely done.
I mean, I've been playing solo in MMOs since 2000, so playing solo in MMOs is not new to me.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the idea of having a mid-tier put back in?
Pretty went back in? I'm sorry?
Putting a mid-tier back in, maybe like 17 to 30 in the tier 2 lakes?
If the population can handle it, why not?
I think, yeah, personally, I feel that could be a really, really good change to the game. But yeah, the population, well, during EU, I think it would be fine. But during the NA time zone, Toth was saying that you just wouldn't have the people to fill either side.
Yeah, it's the NA population would be the hardest one to hit. Also because you'd be segmenting, when you only have 200 people online at all, and maybe, let's say, 70% of those are actually going to be in the lakes. Then let's say then you're going to say maybe 20% of those are probably sub 40, and then the other probably 50% are not not Sov players. So then that leaves a very small amount of segmented population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. But what I was thinking is, well, what my feelings on it is that so many of the tier 2 zones just aren't designed for tier 4 large-scale warband play.
Keep in mind, though, I believe Max Heyman has said probably, 2 months ago or something, where they're looking to expand and actually edit the maps and maybe make some zones where the PvE is less of an influence and there's more RVR, or vice versa. So theoretically, they could take tier 2 zones and make those RVR zones bigger, without having
Yeah, I
to
was
change
really
anything.
interested in that idea. Sounds really, really good. To what extent are they able to edit the maps, though? Is it just, can they change the physical landscape, or is it just changing the zone layout?
That's what they're working on. That's part of what's coming with the ability rework. Is they're going to be introducing a world editing tool that will allow them to change the terrain and all without having to without it causing so much havoc. That's part of why the ability rework is taking so long. Is there actually there's a lot of other stuff that's coming in with it. When it's done, it'll give them the ability to implement changes while the server's live, instead of it taking like restarts and downtime. They'll be able to edit changes, and it should also cut down on the hated lag that has been an annoyance to everyone. So that's why there's been so much tedious effort, is because Max is like, we don't want this to get implemented and there be problems. We want it to work and be stable. So that's why it's been taking so long.
Yeah, I mean, I'm greatly anticipating it, to be honest. Not necessarily the ability reworks themselves, because that seems, we'll have to wait and see how I feel about that. But the idea that they can then move on to different things and spend time doing other areas sounds great to me.
Well, they got plans for more PvE content and more PvP. Land of the Dead will be getting additional changes made to where, if I understood what Max meant by it, eventually it will become an open zone that you can travel to freely, not just when it's active.
That'd be great.
So there's things they want to do. Yeah, it's taking them a dreadful long period of time to do it. Again, they're working with what they got.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I think they're doing a fantastic job with the game in general. I mean, the Rings event, while it had its issues, was really fantastic. My guild especially enjoyed that a lot. Completely burnt myself out doing it, but it was really, really good. These double XPs they've been dropping adds a lot of life, adds a lot of freshness to some days, which is also great. Yeah, I mean, I'm as I said before, I'm pretty happy in general with the overall state of the game. I know that some people are not, but for me personally, I have very few issues with it. The blobbing thing that we've talked about, it's difficult, but it is part of the game, especially for newer people and pugs, warbands, and things like that. They've got so few choices sometimes when you're fighting a full solve 24-man group of players who've been playing together for the last 5 years. You've got little choice.
True, but there's things that you could do to introduce to try to that the players could do to change that. But it starts with the player base, something that Tosh and myself and others have talked about. The player base has to make the decision to change. It can't keep. You can't sit there and say, "Oh, it's all the devs fault." No, the players have got to make the choice. Hey, let's try something. Let's change it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Which it was tried, as I said, with the leader Discord. Didn't work out quite so well. But at least people are talking about it and thinking about it,
Yeah, that would be nice, Yob, is to see an event that didn't require going into an SC, because honestly, everyone, that's why I mainly avoid the SCs, is because every time there's been an event that has an SC with the SCs, it invariably turns into a farm fest, because the pre-mades will go in there and basically drive out. They'll make sure people can't get it done, because they'll kill it. They'll deliberately make sure you do not get it done.
I mean, that's not necessarily just SCs. I mean, if you think about the double RR event that went on a month or two ago, there were nights where there was 5 or 6 organized Destro warbands out.
Yeah, I remember Calidor. Calidor was a good example of it, because you had during the ring event, you had those warbands. They literally prevented the zone from flipping.
Yeah.
And Order it got so bad, Order gave up. Order literally conceded and just left the zone and wouldn't fight.
Yeah, which I think is fair enough, to be honest. If there's no chance of you winning, just take a break for a bit. Let them farm an empty zone if they really want to.
Well, Order, to its credit, tried to force the fight into another zone to break it, and Destro turned around, and I think at that particular day we had I counted 7 full Destro warbands, and at least 4 of them were pre-mades, because I had the leaders marked, and I was like, I know those are pre-made teams, because I saw the names. I was like, yeah, those are pre-mades, and they just annihilated everything.
Yeah.
And Order tried. Rhett was on that day. I saw just about every Order warband that tried got destroyed. It just Order gave up. They're like, no, there's no point. And then some Destro players that I knew were jumping into regional and Order side saying, why won't you guys fight? And I said something to one guy. I was like, what's the point in fighting with 7-1 odds? I mean, come on.
The events do need some work in that area, but overall, I think this year. Well, I mean, I've only been playing for a year, so I don't really less than a year, so I don't even have that much experience to talk about older events. But they seem to be going up in quality.
Yeah, I know a suggestion made to deal with that, and what Yob was saying. If you do an event like that again, do not attach it to a pairing. Make it across all pairings. Don't tie it to one pairing, because that encourages those sweaty warbands to do stuff like that, and it just the game doesn't need that, because it ended up hurting the player population. It didn't help. A lot of people quit playing because of it. They're like, this is no fun. They wanted to do the event and couldn't do it because one side was basically deliberately using it as a means to just KD grief farm, and that's it. And people tried to justify under the guise, well, we're helping the game. No, you're not. You're doing it just because you want to get kills and you want to beat up on something.
May I ask what makes the events fun for players? I actually don't do any of them myself. I've never done them, so I don't know what makes them fun for people. So can you just briefly tell me why are they fun? Because like I said, I don't do any of them.
For me, for the ring one was sorry. For me, the ring one was essentially just new content. It was something new to do. The crafting system, the farming the resources, etc., gave more of a reason to play during that week than I'd had for a while, for sure. I mean, we, as a guild, we decided we would go hard on that, and we made enough rings to keep us going in the future for new alts and new players. So we went pretty hard on it. But essentially it was just a new content thing. And for the other ones, I like the cosmetic stuff, personally. A lot of what I do for the other events is for the cosmetic side of things.
The biggest thing I saw to it that I heard people talk about is it promoted a lot of social interaction. It got people talking to one another because of the trade and bartering. It opened up actual people playing together instead of being so hostile towards each other or not wanting to communicate. You saw people interacting with one another. You saw active trading. It just
fair enough. I just never done them, so I don't really have any experience
it's
or con of them.
Yeah, it's a bit of.
I just.
Sorry, go ahead, Tosh. I was trying
to go ahead.
Answer Great Crusade. It's a bit of both Crusade. The idea of the events is to get the community to come out of its shell, so to speak, and engage with each other instead of being so isolated from one another.
So yeah, I think if they could do more events like that, just with different content, things like that would be really, really good. I don't think it needs to have like the RoR events every time, personally, but cosmetic stuff is always a driving factor for me. Love it. And just anything new, yeah. Like obviously they have the ability to put new content into the game because we've seen it already, so more of that is good.
That's true. It's the event. I know Techno said that they have events planned out for the foreseeable future, and there's more stuff planned out. A lot of the feedback that came back that was people saying, do the double XP more and renown more frequently because it gets more people in the game. And one thing that even I noticed is even with it running for as long as it did just a little while back, honestly, it wasn't as disruptive to the game as people were thinking it would be. It actually ended up bringing more people in and kept fights going. It encouraged more interaction than it hindered. The other thing that I would love to see them do, and I've been trying to persuade this, put the dungeon cooldowns back to 3 hours. Leave it at 3 hours. People enjoyed that, and I'm like, the 18-hour cooldown is ridiculous. It's the other thing of it is that it gives people promotes more activity in the PvE for those that want to do PvE, and it gives more to do in the hours when PvP is just slack, or when it becomes so one-sided that it's just there's no point.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on that. I think that it does need to be lower. I think there's no real reason for it to have such a long cooldown. And for people who are newer to the game, if they want to do Gunbad or BS 3 times in a day, fine, go for it, enjoy yourself.
Well,
I actually agree.
We had before they did the universal currency, the only thing that slowed cities from happening was the time it took for either side to push the campaign to trigger the city. So you had it to where cities were literally happening almost every day. There wasn't a time gate on it. The problem is that one side was forcing the fights to where it was always in their favor, always at their time, and no one else could get in on them.
I would like it if they introduced some unique rewards back to City. Like back on live, I think you could only get your Sov set through City, was that correct? Or was Sov from Forts and something else was from City? There was unique rewards to City, right?
Yeah,
I can't remember which set it was.
Yeah, there was a unique rewards. I believe it was solved from doing cities, but yes, that it did give meaning to the campaigns, and it would push the emphasis to push the campaigns again. The other thing Max is working on is adding Karaze, Carrot, and 8 Peaks to the siege rotation. Now, the idea he discussed that he has not hammered out the details to was doing a rotation to where you would it would sort of implement the old system where you would constantly have a city going. So there would be reason to push the pairings constantly because it would constantly trigger a city defense.
I mean, I feel pretty 50-50 about that. The good thing about having City on a kind of set schedule is that you do have that schedule, and the guilds who want to be more competitive, they know when they need to be there, and everybody can be on at the right time. Also, it means that the NA players always get a chance to have a city every week, is it? I believe you get an NA city.
No.
No, is it not?
No, there's no special NA city. It's only the one city for that week, for that time period. That the hour may change briefly, but there's not one for NA, itself.
Yeah, okay.
If that's what you were asking. Is that what you were asking? If there's a special NA city, or
I thought that it was not special NA city, but I thought the time scheduling meant that at least one fell in NA time during the week.
No, it's one city, which could be potentially 2 a week, So it'd be like 2 a week, 1 a week, 2 a week, 1 a week, how the schedule is. But there's no where it's gonna say, okay, we're gonna have one for NA time slot between, let's say, 3 and 9, and then one for EU time slot, 3 and 9 for EU. No, it does not happen.
Okay, all right. Thought it had.
Well, then, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it, the old campaign system come back. Mac, like I said, Max is, like, he brought this up during one of my podcasts, that he's planning to implement the other 2 cities for the siege rotation to try to help drive the campaigns again to bring that system, fine tune it, and straighten it out. I wouldn't mind seeing that happen, because the way things are now, it's not really working. I think I think people had good idea, good intentions to begin with, but like anything else, it just didn't pan out.
Kind of going back, I think you were gonna say a few minutes ago that you were an advocate of having in cities where that's where you get your, let's say, your sovereign gear was only in cities. Was that something you were gonna say?
Yeah, I think, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be solve set, but for there to be some unique rewards. Like City, it's a lot of crests and it's a lot of renown, but other than that, it's just kind of the competitive side and kind of getting your best team together and facing off against some of the other guilds and things like that is the main reason to go these days. And if there was a bit more of an incentive, it could be very good.
I disagree with you.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
I do feel that City needs to feel unique, and I do think there needs to be something special about City. However, I don't think it should be gear, only because then that requires people that might not be able to have access to ever get to a point where they can be equal to somebody else in a possibly competitive setting. So I think when it comes to gear, that needs to be available to earn for all players, no matter how they want to play or however they can play. I'm not talking solo players or 6-man. I'm just talking, if you can't make cities because your time zone in New Zealand and your work schedule doesn't work out, you just never get it, then you can never do it. So
yeah, for sure. I definitely wouldn't say that your SOV should drop from City, for example. I wouldn't say that, because it's completely essential, but just some form of reward. Absolutely, something unique. Yeah.
Then I agree with you there. I mean, if it's something special that you can earn, that's not, let's say, game breaking or game requirement to be competitive, then I'm all for that. Then I'm all for that. Then go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, quick. Great Crusade. So, what's the point of City now, since there's universal currency? Pointless. His reply, or his thought on it, was pointless now. What do you suggest to incentivize cities then? I think that's.
I definitely wouldn't. Cool. I would definitely disagree that City is pointless. First of all, it is a huge amount of crests and a huge amount of renown for a win. Even if you don't win, if it's a good fight, you're going to come out pretty happy. And it is a place for the people who have been playing this game for longer to test themselves against each other in a more competitive setting. That's the reason, in my mind at least, that the majority of people play City these days. And that works very well, It's very good for that. Like a good sweaty City is fantastic.
Well, I when it comes to now, I don't know if you know this or not, but I haven't done City since 2020. I've skipped cities for almost 4 years. Because I don't find them fun at all for myself. But I do understand for people that like group play and like warband play, where that type of engagement can be fun and enjoyable, especially when you get to really good cities for really good fights. So for those people, I agree with you. That can be some of the best content when it's competitive. That can be some of the best content. And to me, I wish players would care more about fun and content versus game outcome. Personally, but that's just me.
In what way do you mean?
Pardon me?
In what way do you mean that
Well,
change in mindset?
Well, what I mean is, I think there's too much of a culture right now in a lot of games where the only thing that matters is what I get out of it. You know, what do I get? You know, what is my reward? What is my gift? What have I earned? You know,
Yeah.
what prize do I get? Instead of worrying about how much fun am I having.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I would say that this is one of the better games for that because once you're full solve and you've got your your offset or whatever, the only reason really to be playing your lanes is for the enjoyment of it. Like I've got more crests than I could ever possibly spend on my Slayer now, and I've got pretty much all the sets. I think I've still got one piece of offsolve to buy, but I just haven't bothered yet. I just play this purely for the entertainment of it and for my guild. I think I know what you mean completely, but I think that this is one of the better games for that. Personally, I could be wrong.
I personally view it from my point of view, from my experience of seeing chat and warbands talk and other streams and things like that. I see too much of we're not going to do this. Let's just sit here and farm. No, we're not going to help them. We're not going to help them do this. That's not our concern. Whatever they want to do, that's not our concern. We're not going to help them. There's a lot of that happens from what I can see, and to me that doesn't bring overall fun to the community or game as a server as a whole.
Yeah.
That's a lot of selfish behavior, which I think is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I would agree that happens for sure.
I mean, it was actually yesterday, and I'm not sure if you were in game or not. But we were in Avalorn, and I was roaming around, and there was I think there was a couple Order warbands that were in Avalorn at the time. And somebody in Order said, hey, join warbands, let's get warbands going, let's get warbands blobbing, and I made the comment. I said, well, why blob if all you're going to do is run away? So then somebody in region chat said, well, then join a warband and find out. Then I said, well, fine, invite me. I'll join your warband. Show me what you're doing that's so special.
Show me what you got.
Yeah, exactly. Show me what you got. Show me what you're doing that I'm not doing that I can't accomplish. Show me. And then they were like, sorry, we're all full. So then I'm like, if all you want to do is form a warband and then care about your personal KD or talk about how well you do on Discord or something, then I don't really have a lot of time or whatever for those people. I want to enjoy the game and have fun, not worry about stats.
Yeah, 100%. I would say that you're coming from a fairly unique position of a person who really enjoys the solo play, though, if you know what I mean. I think that when he was saying, I don't remember who it was, I think it was one of my guys, when he was saying, like, join the warbands, he's talking about the people who are, just roaming around as a 3-man or something like that, just not really contributing to the effort of the zone. Because I remember that, because I remember that fight very well. We had Alethros with a 5 warband blob, and we were all scattered all over the place. And it took all of us coming together to even start fighting him. And we went on to win the zone. Eventually, we beat the living something out of them, and we had a great night. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea of what that guy was trying to get across was, I think, at least, also don't know him, was that we needed at that point to work together more as a team.
Until I see any real reason for, in my opinion, and this is no attack to any warband leader individually, until I see a reason of what makes warband fun again, what makes warband play fun again, in my eyes, I see no reason to ever not solo. because I get to dictate how I play and where I play, instead of being dictated what I do and how I do it.
Yeah, of
And
course.
and yes, there are some advantages to warband play for sure. There are some advantages. For example, I can't kill more than 3 people versus 1, potentially, maybe, if I'm lucky. Whereas warbands, you could potentially go, 24 versus 30 and come out on top or something like that. So there's those big advantages. They also are the ones that have to be required to push zones. But that's something else that I clap back at is I think a lot of these warbands don't want to have active zones. What I mean by active zones is they don't do a lot of roaming and they don't do a lot of zone pushing. They just want to do a lot of camp farming. And I just find that really, really, really boring.
Yeah, camp farming is disgustingly boring. Yes.
I mean, we can look at Eatine as an example right now. The zone's been open for what, an hour, and 90% of the population hasn't moved more than 30 feet.
Yeah. This is something I was talking about with the it's gonna be a bit of a change of topic, but going to the terrain manipulation. Zones like Eatine, they just have to change. They have to change.
So
Gotta do something.
So until that mentality changes, where it's not just about let's sit here and watch 20s on my screen go up over and over and over again, and just do nothing what I call productive, then why would I want to join a warband?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, join a guild. Join us. We don't walk camp farm.
I mean,
I'm kidding.
No, I mean I'm not against anyone. I just don't. I don't hate any warband leader. I just don't like how it's being played currently. Oh, as an overall, I'm not saying any warband, or I'm not saying every warband leader does this, but as a general playstyle, this seems to be how it's played.
Yeah, whatever wants to help. Sitting here, I said I was spawning a troll ram. Sorry to interrupt. Said I was trying to spawn a troll ram to make things interesting, and Jack's like saying, let's try to break things up, and immediately order gets argumentative. Like, why are we trying to ram? Why are you messing with the farm?
But when you say you don't like the way the game is being played currently, do you think it was any different? I don't remember it being that different before. I mean in life, I didn't really play this server much until about 8 months ago. Tosh?
Pardon me. I was in a fight. I'm sorry.
No, sorry, it's no problem. You say you don't like the way that it's being played currently by some. Do you think that it was actually different? Have you noticed a change in the play style, the player base?
Well, so let me start kind of from the beginning here, then, from why my opinion is why my opinion is. When I came on the server in 2016, I was a warband player, so I did warband content up until almost late 2017. So I did that as a guild and as alliance content, and back then, from 2016 to maybe 2018, yes, I would say how warbands fight, what the objective is in the open RVR, how it's played out, what seems to be the motivation has changed significantly over the years. So yes, I would say so.
Okay.
Okay, to read some, I've got something that Great Crusader said. I want to read it as soon as the ad's done.
Do I need to repeat that?
You will in a minute, because
Okay.
the ad popped up.
Gentlemen, Great Crusade here. I joined Discord because the ad was popping up and such, so I did hear the response. But then my response to this would be, if there's no incentive to play any of the objectives, then you're going to lead to war camp farming and things of that nature. So how is it that you encourage people to go do these battle objectives as to make it different than just war camp farming?
Well, I mean, it's a great point, and I agree with you. My only thing would be saying is that the players themselves have to choose what is the point of the game. Is it to get one aspect of the content, or is it to do more content in itself? If the players, because devs can only do so much. Players are going to have to decide what role they're going to play into. And if they want to take the role of, well, we're going to ignore content potentially for easy gains or for gain A only, then doesn't matter what is developed or what's created or what's made, because the players will ignore it. So there has to be some sort of incentive. I agree with you. What can that incentive be? For me, it's just the PvP and making good PvP content and having fun in that regard. For other people, that's not going to be enough. They're going to need to have gear. They're going to have something as either cosmetics or something they can earn to make themselves unique, which I'm all for. I'm all for making, let's say more and more cosmetics available for people that want to showcase that. I think that's a great thing they could look into, and I wish they would.
I think the only time that they've managed to make the content available to players and how they wish to play is, and the only benefit I see to the universal currency is being that if some people wanted to build their characters as a two-handed tank, they would require to go get the scenario sets and whatnot, but they may not want to engage in scenarios to unlock it. So there is a gate with which people don't want to engage in certain play styles. That is true. So the universal currency has made it beneficial to letting them play what they want and unlocking the material that they so desire, but without the incentivization of maybe unique currencies. I guess I'm agreeing with you in this instance. They need to figure out a means of a carrot on a stick to better enable people to engage in the objectives that are in the game, because all they are just points of conflict for us to engage with one another as we are, just not in front of a war camp. So, I mean, I'm not sure how they would do that.
Yeah,
I mean, the universal currency was also just a horrible grind as well. Like Toth was saying, by the time you got to the point where you were moving to the next set, you were just about there with the gear, with the tokens you had got. So, in many ways, it just, if I remember right, I only played up to like round 60 or something like that earlier in the server, and it was still a mixed currency. But it was a horrible grind sometimes, and you were forced to do things that you didn't necessarily want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So keep in mind that the universal currency also allows players to choose to play how they want to play in all aspects of the game. Yep. Whereas in the previous system, if you wanted to play Spec A, but you had to do it in a scenario that would make you less effective of how you wanted to play. So you did not enjoy it as much. So a lot of players quit because of that aspect, because they didn't like to play how they had to play to earn what they had to earn. They found that to be quite unenjoyable. So the universal currency now allows you to play how you want to play, as you want to play, and where you want to play it, and you can still earn what everybody else can get. There's no more gating of saying, well, since you're only doing 6v6, or since you're only doing 12-man, or since you're only doing 24-man, you can all earn the currency and you can all earn the gear. It might take you a little bit longer doing the universal currency if you're joining, let's say, Pug Warbands, and your Pug Warband either isn't active or is getting its butt run over. Then yes, you're not really earning a lot. You're only getting your income from bags at that point for the most part. So you might get, maybe 6 crests in a bag or 40 crests in a bag if you're lucky. So for those players, it's going to seem like it's a really big drudge. But if you're able to, let's say, play solo or play 2-man or 6-man or 12-man, or if you're in an active warband where you're actually able to roam around and be active, I think those crests just roll in for players. For those players, it just rolls in. It's almost like you drown in them at points.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm very happy with the switch to the universal currency. I think it works a lot better than the previous system did.
I agree. I think it has some negatives. It has some negatives, but I think the pros more than outweigh the cons, in my opinion.
Yeah, same.
Do we still have things in place that what are they called? Hold on one second, please. The jewelries, the accessories. Do we still have things like layers from T1, getting those special blue helmets, to the accessories that you could go kill a layer boss and get what is like one of the best regen tank accessories and stuff?
Yeah.
Are there people still engaging in that content?
Oh, 100%.
Some,
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Like, tier 1 layers still pops all the time. The White Lion region build and the White Witch Hunter and Witch Elf region builds are still, very, very much popular. They're still around.
That's part of why I've been doing dungeon guide videos, quest guides, and I'll eventually be adding in the layer guide videos, is so that it draws attention to it. A lot of it, even newer players, they don't know it's there.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So that's why I've been, since a little over 14 months ago, I started doing quest guides and stuff, and since then it's rallied support from across the player base, and more people have started making guides, and it's helped newer players realize that there's more to the game than just the PvP, that there's more stuff. Yeah. There's more stuff you can do to help you with the PvP. Don't just limit yourself to one setup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think your question is a really good idea. Yeah.
Can I interject on that? Because I'm going to be the odd man out here.
Go
ahead. For it.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to be the odd man out for here. I'm one public person that does not do any PvE. Oh, actually, I should say don't. I don't like to do PvE, and I've done very, very little because I do not enjoy the content itself. The only thing I wish a server did is I wish they would remove the aspect of you can only earn PvE gear through PvE. I think you should be able to earn that through PvP as well, personally. But I don't do any PvE because I don't enjoy the content of killing AI mobs. I prefer to kill quote-unquote people. I'm not trying to be super aggressive. I'm just saying I prefer the PvP aspect of games. I don't enjoy killing mobs. Otherwise, I think there's far better games to do that than Return of Reckoning. So I just don't enjoy the content.
Oh, I agree with you completely. I don't like doing BS or CNT or anything like that. Layers, I think, are great. I think the layers are fantastic. Just little boss, grab a group, go farm it a couple of times. I think layers are great. CNT and BS, not a fan of, but I know that there is a lot of players who, even though this game isn't focused on PvE, actually really enjoy them. I've got some guildies who love doing CNT and BS. And I think the game has to have some PvE, but I would agree with you that restricting the gear behind those, well, it's not restricted behind those. You could just grind out the crests if you really wanted to.
Yeah, and I think that's something that should be available. Is that if you wanted to buy, any PvE gear, but you can't either find a group to do it or you don't want to do the content, you should be able to grind it out on your own time and earn it yourself through all other aspects, like you can the rest of the gear for the most part, except for say Land of the Dead stuff. That's my only complaint really about that. I just don't like content of killing mobs, so I just don't do it. I just don't. And people say, well, you can take 3 hours out of your day versus 3 weeks. And I agree with you. You can earn gear a lot faster by, PvE skipping and so on and so forth. I just don't do any of that. I just grind all out through PvP because I would rather spend 3 weeks of killing somebody and fighting people than 3 hours of my day fighting a mob that doesn't care about anything and doesn't, it can get bugged out or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I just don't find it enjoyable.
Yeah, I think maybe one idea would be to have PvE sets drop in fort bags. When you take a keep, if you get a purple or gold bag, you get a piece of PvE gear. That could be fun.
I mean, you can do something like that, but I'd just say, if you have a universal currency system, then make it universal.
Yeah, sure.
And have all gear on a universal currency system. PvE's never been a main aspect of this game. Most people don't join the server to PvE. It's just a thing to get for most players. It's a thing to get gear that they never want to do again. For most players, they do it. Yeah. They do it 2-3 times to get whatever piece they need, and then they never do it again unless they roll. Unless they roll an alt. Unless they roll an alt.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there are some people who are like, what, Eatane right now sucks to be in. It's just a camp fest or whatever. I'm going to go run a BS dungeon or something. And that's perfectly legitimate. I completely understand that and get that. And I don't want anything like that to go away for players who enjoy it. I don't enjoy the content, and I wish the gear was accessible to all players by all means. That's all.
Yeah. So, Great Crusade, are you a newer player? Are you somebody who's thinking about joining the server? What's your story?
No, I've been here since T1 before they had quests and anything really implemented in the game, and you were locked at level 10. Couldn't get past, I think, renown rank 15 or whatnot. I've been here since the beginning. Got a couple high RR players. They're at least like 78, 79. One's almost full Sov, but the full Sov set wasn't as pertinent as being like Sov and Conquer or whatnot to a Sword and Board Knight of the Blazing Sun. So, anyways, all that aside, I've been here for a long time. I've helped out with the server, doing honestly bug reports and things of that nature. But I just care about the game because it's honestly one of the best PvP MMORPGs that have managed
Quite
to
easily.
nail the trinity, the holy trinity of tank, DPS, and heals. And so I just am adamant about the game. It has charm.
Sure. Oh, it does. Definitely has. It has charm and love. A lot of love has gone into this game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm currently here sitting in the region chat asking people why it is we wouldn't counter siege, and they're all just talking about it's an exercise on futility and there's nothing else to do, and there's a lack of people wanting to play the objectives. And so I'm just kind of curious as to being, if we were to put a carrot on the end of that stick, it's even just to try, then war camp would be
well, Eotane is renowned for its war camp farming. If any zone was renowned for its bloody Eotane.
That's why I spawned that ram, was to try to get the fight going, and or as soon as I spawned the ram, order immediately went to saying they're all they want to do is farm kills.
Well, I mean, I completely agree with what you guys are saying about it, but as a low-level player, sitting in that middle zone in the Eotane in a warband and just healing or guarding, that's just staggering amounts of renown some days. You just sit there for an hour, you got a few renown ranks quite easily in that spot. So it's very tempting for a lot of people. I personally, I really dislike that spot.
Let me ask you a question. How much renown do you think you get in an hour by doing that?
As a healer, from experience, you're looking at probably best part of 100k if you're getting the good kills.
So a healer in a warband will get about 100k in an hour by doing that?
That's a very rough approximation, but you could do, definitely. I did it. I think I did it on my warrior priest when I was leveling him. I remember it just being glorious. We just sat there for I was fairly new to the game. Sat there for a couple of hours in the middle of that BO, just farming away. Great renown.
But
I don't agree with that, but it's very tempting for a lot of people.
I guess, I don't know. I mean, that is more renowned than I would expect you to say, if I'm being honest. But I'm not going to say you're wrong, because you
I could be wrong quite easily,
and I don't. So, yeah, it could be. Maybe it's reality. Maybe it's 150,000 or 150,000 an hour, or 50,000. I don't know. But even if it is, let's say 75,000 an hour, I find my fun to be more worth my time than the renown. Personally.
Yeah, but that's coming as a renown rank 92 person who's been playing the game for years. I mean that with all respect intended, absolutely. But as a newer player, if you've been playing this game for a few weeks, you're level 35, right? And you're in this pug warband, and you're just healing your little socks off, you will love that spot.
Except I play a lot of other classes that are not 92 or 93.
You've got
Sorry. I mean, I have an 82 engineer. I have an 83 AM. I have a 79 swordmaster. And I don't enjoy any of that stuff in any of that manner for that purpose.
Which is absolutely fair enough. But for a good portion of the player base, sitting there and watching that purple bar fill up, and then fill up some more, and then fill up some more. That's an enjoyment on its own, you know.
And then when you're, let's say if the objective just to get gear, or is the objective just to get renown? Because if the objective is to get gear, then what is the motivation when you don't need the gear for those players?
Very little. I doubt that people who are full sov are sitting in the middle of. I doubt that very many people in full sov are sat in the middle of Eotane right now, farming away.
I mean, unless if you were to look at the kill count, I would probably disagree with that.
You reckon? I doubt that. I very much doubt there's a guild group where over a third of them are in full sov in that Eotane farm at the moment. You'll have like Grofix on his pugs, maybe Gruffrip with his pugs. You know, you won't have serious players.
I mean, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know. But I don't think gear or renown is a motivation for these players, for some of these players. So I don't know what that would really. I don't know. I just don't find it fun. I find my time worth more while to me than just looking at renowned purple numbers.
Yeah, again, but I think as a newer player, that would be, you know, I have had that experience myself, and it felt great. As somebody who's been in the game for a few months, probably not. Most likely not.
I'm almost instantly. I don't last but a few seconds.
But, I mean, it's the same thing as the Marta Square in Prague. Warbands will sit there for hours just going back and forth to the war camp.
It happens in every zone. It doesn't matter what zone it is. You can pick a zone. It happens in every single zone you have. You can, Troll Country. You got more. You have High Pass. You have Brewery. You have EAT. You pick a zone. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure.
So, to say that these high renown rank warbands aren't doing it, I think would be a false statement. Do they do it all the time? Probably not. But do you think Freebooters doesn't sit outside of a war camp for 45 minutes out of every 2 hours? They certainly do. They certainly do.
Freebooters is a different matter. They're just bunga bunga role playing guys. I mean, I love Freebooters. No issues at all with them. But they're hardly your average high geared warband, are they?
I mean, I agree with you, but I mean, they're. You know how many times I've seen, I'm not going to call guilds names, but where I've seen, I'm not going to say guilds names on this podcast anyway. On my stream I will, but not here. But you see guilds names basically sitting 75 feet outside of a war camp for 10 minutes straight, and they don't move, and you're like, well, they don't need gear. What's their motivation? I mean,
I've been accused of that many times before, but usually we're just either on a break or sorting out groups, waiting for people, doing relogs. Like people always say, I'll be in a zone for 4 hours, right? On a Monday night, I often spend 4 hours in the zone, fighting, right? And I take a 10-minute break, and I will get PMs and messages in the chat saying, "Oh, how's the mailbox?" or "What the hell are you doing? Get out of the zone." Something like that. Like I'm on every night for Order. All I do is try and help Order succeed in RVR. I don't have any particular ego about my warband leading skills, anything like that. I just do my best to keep Order going. And if I take a break and I sit at the war camp, or I'm waiting for relogs at the war camp, I will get messages saying, "What are you doing?" or trolling about guarding the mailbox, stuff like that. Like it's, it's not definitely not unheard of.
No, I agree with you. And those are wrong. Those are wrong assumptions that people make. I agree with you. People, if you're in a zone for an hour and you take a 5 or 10 minute break, then people are like, "Oh, you're just AFKing." Well, they're just being dumb about it. They're not actually thinking about what content you've been doing up to that point. So everyone deserves a break or whatever. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking more about where you go into a zone, let's say MS, and you Guild Warband A forms up, and for 10 minutes straight they sit outside the opposition war camp, and they just sit there and they don't move. No, they might stroll along later on, but they'll come back and they'll swing back on around, then they'll sit there for 10 minutes, then they'll stroll, and they'll do that. So I don't know. I don't know what to do about, warband, what their objectives are, because I don't really speak to a lot of warband leaders. I try to communicate when I play. I try to relay information. I try to do things like that. I try to be helpful as a solo player, but I don't.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't deal with warbands directly, hardly at all anymore. I used to. I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my biggest complaints about being on Order is when I play Destro, is I find Destro. I'm not saying Destro's better, and I'm not saying Order players are worse, but to me, Destro is a lot more, when it comes to open RVR, a lot more vocal and a lot more, generally speaking, mindset of objective gameplay to win. I'm not saying always. I'm not saying they always do. Whereas on Order, I can stream and play, and Order chat can be completely silent for an hour and a half in region chat. Like, no one talks, no one communicates. It's either segmented into individual warbands where they only talk to each other and they don't talk outside into region chat, or it's segmented in a Discord or I don't know. But you can go in on Order side and you can play for an hour and there's dead silence. No one communicates.
Yeah, no, that is definitely an issue. It's something that I was really pushing for about 3 months, and in all honesty, I got pretty damn sick of it. I got sick of the amount of times that nobody would do anything, nobody would listen, nobody would coordinate. So now, I mean, I talk to warband leaders directly usually if I'm in a zone, just because it's a bit soul crushing after a while.
And I prefer the more communication, so I try to communicate as a solo player. But again, that's one of my biggest issues when I play Order. Is when I play Destro, it's just a lot more. Again, I'm not saying Destro plays better, but they just seemed a lot more vocally active on some. Even if it's insults, even if it's insulting somebody, they're more vocally active.
Yeah. No, yeah, Order does have a communication issue. Absolutely. Yeah,
that's what I was talking about earlier. It's the biggest Achilles heel that Order has is the lack of communication between warbands and the player base in general. They won't talk to one another, or if they do, it generally deteriorates into arguing and pointing the finger.
Yeah, there are a lot of people, and it's usually, I don't know if it's newer people, but there are several people who, if they wipe, they blame it on somebody. If the zone's not going well, they blame it on somebody, and it does get very tiresome after a while, for sure.
I mean, that happens in all games where, somebody's attitude is, if I die, it's not my fault, it's your fault, why I died. So there's always players in all games that want to blame somebody else for their outcome. There's not a lot of, self-responsibility in games or in society in general anymore, but that's way off topic. That's way off topic. And I think this game is an extension of that, where it's a lot of kind of like what you said, you go into a zone and now you just kind of just speak internally because you're so frustrated with how it's done outside of it. There's kind of no point. There's kind of no point to it. So I'm just going to speak internally in my warband or Discord or whatever, and I'm just going to deal with what we can control. I'm not really going to worry about what's outside of that. And I think that happens a lot in this game, where there's too much of what, my warband's going to do what we're going to do, and that warband's going to do what they're going to do. And none of us are going to communicate with each other. None of us are going to coordinate. We're all just going to do our own thing. And then if we lose, we're going to blame the other people for why we lost.
Yeah. I mean, that happens on Dev's side as much as it happens. Well, from what I've heard, at least, that happens on Dev's side as much as it happens in Order.
For sure it does. I mean, like I said, I was playing Slayer last night, and Great Crusade was streaming. I found his stream last night, and I was able to see what Destro chat looked like from an Order perspective as I was playing Order. And I'm just playing the game. I'm not sniping. Not
Yeah.
interacting.
I know what you mean.
I'm just playing. I'm playing and I'm watching his stream, and I see in his chat, Destro leader. I'm not going to say the Destro's leader's name. He plainly says, "No, we're not going to help the Ram. We're going to let these Destro guys die, and we're not going to support them." And I'm like, all that attitude does is when those players get wiped out, they're going to say, "Well, F this. I'm going to log out or go do something else." And it just hurts population in general.
I mean,
and it hurts player base in general.
I get your overall point for sure, but like on that specific example, it can be really, really frustrating when you're. I don't know what the situation was there, but I know that from experience, several times I've been trying to coordinate with Order on like, oh, this is the plan, this is what we're going to go do, and then somebody goes and drops a ram in a different zone, and then the pugs all go to that, and then it ruins the whole plan of what was going on between the more organized warbands. Which, I mean, yeah, do your own thing, but at the same time, I guess that's frustrating, you know?
And in that aspect, I agree with you, but there's one key difference there, and that was that you said there's a plan. So that means that means multiple people have at least come to some sort of agreement of what they're going to do, of what the plan is. Maybe the plan falls apart, or something along those lines. And that sucks. I agree with you. If there's a plan, then somebody just doesn't do their job, and then a whole plan dies, and then you're all like, well, we just wasted time. I agree with that. What I'm talking about is, I don't care what the plan is. I'm not going to help you do the plan because I don't find that it is conducive to what I want to do. So since I don't want to do it, my warband isn't going to help you, and we hope that you fail in doing so.
Well, I mean, in the example that I just gave, if we had planned something and a pug warband drops a ram, I'm probably not going to support it. I'm going to continue with the plan that I have set out for the last 10 minutes in 5. You know, sorry, but no, I'm not going to force what I think is a wrong decision when something else has been planned.
And again, that's fine, and I think that should be something that is maybe expressed in a region chat and saying, "Hey, we don't agree with this plan. Don't do it. We're not going to support you." Then that's the way. Then that's the way that it should go. What I don't agree with is internally saying, "Hey, we're not going to support this plan. We're going to let them die," and not say that verbally. I think that is a wrong way of doing that, and that's exactly what happened last night. And and the outcome is exactly what the outcome was, and that's exactly the outcome they wanted to have.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true.
And that mentality is bad for the server, and
100%.
And I wish more people cared about health of the server instead of selfish needs. Because if everyone, if right now we're holding around 1,000 people steady, okay, which is up from what we were 6 months ago. Because 6 months ago we were 700 people prime time. So we should appreciate that we actually have people on the server right now, and the server is at least a lot more active than it has been in the past year. So we need to appreciate that. If people start to leave again, like they have always left year after year because of player behavior or GM decisions or whatever reason, then it's going to become a game once again of, well, nothing's happening because there's no one on, and then it's just pure boredom for 18 hours a day. So I just wish the players would care about server health and overall fun for everybody to keep population high.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think that we are fortunate in that there's people who really care about the health of the server, such as Toth, such as Evil. For all his faults, he does do his best to promote the server outside of the game, which is, all for him. Absolutely happy to support that. We have a lot of people. The devs are obviously clearly dedicated. You've spent a lot of your time on podcasts and things. I mean, I try my best on the actual game level to keep things moving and keep things flowing. We do have a community that is very, very interested in the health of this server. Obviously, on a day-to-day basis, it sometimes can't appear like that, in my opinion, at least.
I find the community here, to me, sometimes confusing to me, and maybe I'm just a weird one, and if that's the case, then I fully accept that. Maybe I am just a weird one, but I find the community here confusing, where there's a lot of people that really enjoy it and really want to enjoy the game and really want to have a lot of fun, and then there's also, I wouldn't say an equal amount of population, but I would say a significant of the population who just comes across as all they want to do is make it not fun for everybody else. And I don't know why that is.
By that, do you mean the full soft warbands farming pugs? Like, what do you mean by not fun?
No. I'm not talking about that because I have nothing. I'm not against warbands farming pugs because a lot of that is pugs' fault. So sometimes I feel they deserve it, but it's more along the lines of, well, let's log in the game and then whatever is happening, let's just make it not fun for everybody else, so that way they don't get to enjoy whatever's happening. It's kind of hard to describe, but for example, you can use let me think of something. Let's say Land of the Dead. Okay, Land of the Dead pops up open. Okay, you know what? All these warband leaders are going to a Discord. They all decide which side they're going to play. So they all say, you know what? We're going to play Destro. We're going to play Order. We're this whatever. Or let's all do Land of the Dead all on one side. Yeah, let's do that. So let's go ahead and let's all just stack warbands onto a side. Let's do that. And that's what we're seeing a lot right now, in my opinion. It's a lot of just pre-made warband stacking onto one side for too much part of the day. Either they stack on Order or they stack on Destro.
See, I from my point of view as a warband leader, I don't think that conversation is happening that often. For example, I know that Gara is doing his best to go to the side that has AAO. Broda is doing his best. Well, he has set nights where he does specific sides. I wouldn't say that there's conversations, as far as I know, to my knowledge, of let's stack this night. For example, I know that a lot of the more established guilds get very, very frustrated on nights where they are overstacked because they've got nothing to do. They don't want to be fighting the same pug warband 20 times in Prague. They want to have a serious fight.
Yes.
Okay, so the only example that I have that I can really say I have evidence to this for, that I can really kind of talk about, would be there was probably the Land of the Dead maybe a month ago. And this was, I want to say, Cross just started, and I think it was going to be their first Land of the Dead. I believe it was going to be the first Land of the Dead. And I was streaming, I want to say it was the Wednesday or Thursday before Land of the Dead, and somebody came into my stream, and they basically told me that warband leaders have decided that since it's going to be Cross's first time on Order, they were going to all stack on Destro side. And
that sucks.
And Cross did their first Land of the Dead, and that Land of the Dead, if I remember correctly, was just an utter got demolished.
Yeah. See, that's extremely toxic. Yeah.
And they just got extremely, extremely demolished. And then I remember, again on my stream, people were coming to my stream telling me, hey, Cross, and this is when Cross was only in the game for maybe a month. And they were giving me how many times Cross as a guild was killed that week or whatever. And they were like, God, Cross as a warband's been killed 15,000 times. Look at Cross. Look at Cross. They've been killed 15,000 times this week or whatever. And I'm like, it's because of, since they're bringing in 400 or 500 or 600 people because they're so large right now, it just seems like to me that there's too many players that are using that opportunity to say, you know what, we can just farm them because they're under geared and they're not knowledged. And And I feel that is, again, maybe I'm wrong, but that's my perception of when I play, which is anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
That's my perception that I see, is I see too much of that of, well, this is an opportunity for us just to farm them and kind of show them that we're better than they are in a way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is extremely toxic. And if any warband leader approached me with that kind of conversation, I would be very, very negative about it.
Yeah, that was something that went on, and I talked to some people, and they're like, well, they're cannon fodder. I'm like, they're new. Give them a chance to learn. I said, you're not helping. If they decide to leave, I said, then who are you gonna fight? They're like, oh, well, we'll just. I'm like, yeah, you'll go back to doing nothing. I said, you're creating the very problem that you say you don't want. It's the player base that's creating the problem, and it's certain individuals that seem to think that it's okay to continue with this mindset of, as soon as you get new players in, oh, let's beat them down till they quit.
Yeah. Right. I'm really sorry, guys, but I've actually got to head off. Warband time.
No worries, Nut. Appreciate you coming in and talking. Good to hear your
My pleasure.
thoughts on things. Good luck. You guys doing Land of the Dead or no?
Not quite sure what the plan is. We shall soon find out.
Make sure you join that Discord and figure it out. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
Well, cheers, Tosh. Nice to talk to you. And thanks again, Toth, for sorting out the dust. You are now, yes. You got an echo, though.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Right, yeah, I have to head off. Best of luck, guys, and thanks for the time, Toth. Take it easy.
Not a problem. Definitely interesting conversation all around, and some things got said that needed to be said. I know I've said a lot of things that I've said multiple times. People disagree with me. It's fine. You're entitled to. And it's the whole point of why I do this podcast.
Well, I was just glad to hear you guys talking about it.
Who is that? I don't recognize that voice.
That's me, Tosh.
Let me look at this word. Oh, it's Karasana. Why do you sound so different?
Yeah.
You sound extremely different.
I got a new microphone.
Oh, okay. Sorry. My apologies.
Imagine that all it takes is a new microphone.
That's all right.
Mess you up. We're talking in the general channel because there was an issue with the live channel. Nut couldn't talk in the live channel for some reason, so I pulled everybody into general so that we could talk. But there's things I've said repeatedly, and people disagree with me. They don't like what I say. They feel like I'm just troublemaking, stirring stuff up, and I'm like, no, I say what I feel needs to be said because it's issues that need to be addressed, not just look the other way and say nothing. I mean, most of you guys know me by now. I'm not a mindless automaton. I'm not just gonna sit quietly with stuff and not say something. If I know something, if I feel something's wrong, I'm gonna say something, no matter where the chips land.
Well, do not go quietly into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light.
Something like that. It's how I am. It gets me in trouble in real life, but so be it. I'd rather be the one person yelling into the wind than to be just another, body in the mass and go along with the status quo.
Well, I know I'm coming late to the party, and I appreciate you letting me drop in, but Cosmo made a comment in the Twitch chat that I would like to address, if I may.
Go ahead.
Okay, he says he brought up the lazy peon crowd, and in context of the treatment guys were talking about to different players, and sort of being targeted and picked groups, like the guild. And I'm not familiar with the guild you were speaking of at that moment, but I am, of course, aware of the mindset behind something like that. And I think Cosmo is exactly correct. For those of us who were here when the Lazy Peon hit, when the Lazy Peon wave hit, the first one, it was almost as if the server went into, we got to get rid of all these guys mode. And because they had the live event, which sent everybody down to tier 1 to do all this killing stuff, which of course by default targeted all the new players that had come in with the Lazy Peon wave. And then all the usual suspects went out and just sort of targeted the new group because they knew they would be easy to kill. People in guild chats were talking about that in their guild discords. And I just found that whole thing, and Cosmo makes a good point. I just found that whole thing, the best I can say about it is that it was all counterintuitive. It made no sense for the server to react that way to that many new people coming into the game. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, the guild in question that was brought up is Cross. Trauma initially come in, and then he brought in some large French streamers. Collectively, between them, I think there's over 1,000 of them. So they're a powerhouse guild. Once they get geared, it's going to be very hard for Destro to contend with them. Once they actually get under their belt to where they know what they're doing and they're geared, they'll be able to field a small army by themselves. And I've seen some of the comments already. Destro's already fussing about it. And I'm like, so you want to punish them because they're playing together as a guild? I said it's the same thing you guys did to Order when I first started playing. First 6 months I played, Destro just flattened Order at every turn. We didn't win a city. We didn't win anything. 6 months solid, Order was just annihilated. So it is what it is. I mean, it's gonna take time for Cross to get itself together. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
I think Cross has an uphill battle a little bit. I don't really communicate with them myself. I know who some of them are, but I don't really communicate with any of them. But I think one of the issues they're going to have is just, I don't know how well they're able to communicate with non-French leaders in the course of a battlefield and make it coherent. I don't know. Maybe they can very well. I don't know. But I kind of feel that's going to be an issue for them if they can't, because then they don't really have somebody. They don't have a Formosa on Order side anymore where they can kind of learn from and kind of, let's say, try to emulate in a way, from what I can tell. So I don't know how well they're communicating or playing with other warband leaders. I don't know.
Trauma and the other two warband leaders I've seen speak English fairly well, and they communicate pretty good with the other war bands that I've seen when I've seen them chatting. So they do interact. It's just, I mean, language barrier does play a role, but they do communicate. Hold on. Grim is saying the issue is the fact that they consistently zerg with 3 to 4 war bands when Eden from LMN runs 70 plus people in his Discord. It's not fun to go against.
Well, it's no different than what FMJ would do to Order.
Yeah.
It's the exact argument that Order would talk about when it comes to FMJ. When FMJ themselves could have 2 or 3 warbands by themselves in one zone, and them by themselves were more than what Order had combined. So you would have 5 warbands of Destro, 3 of which potentially, or 2 would be FMJ themselves. It's the same argument that we've had in the past. It sucks that they're all playing order, or the majority of Troma's guildies play order. From a population standpoint, it kind of sucks, but you know, it's what happens on the server. And luckily for us on the server, a lot of the large guilds play both sides anyway, so they should be able to accommodate the incoming cross guild influx and combat that and keep
Yeah.
equal fights.
Well,
And still have equal fights.
my understanding of it is from the chatter I've seen on Destro, Roldrum's crew, Gruff, and all the rest of them are waiting for Cross to get geared because they're foaming at the mouth to have that big fight versus that powerhouse guild, because they're like that if they can field that many war bands, bring it on, is the mindset that I'm seeing the chatter indicate. They're looking forward to it.
And I'm sure and I'm sure they are.
Did you
Go ahead.
Did you actually say that Rogrum is waiting for an even fight?
Yeah, ironically enough.
Sorry.
Which, truthfully, it's more or less...
I will agree to disagree.
Well, I say that he's waiting for an even fight in regards of the blob mindset, because as soon as he loses one fight, he'll scream his head off for as many people as he can get to come follow him so that he can beat down one side. I know how he is. He don't like to lose. He's a horrible sportsman. If he don't win all the time, he rages. And you can't say he don't, because I've been in war bands with him. He's quick to lay blame on everyone else, even when he messes up himself. I gotta ad break.
Well, ad break?
Yeah.
Commercial time.
2 minutes.
There is a Land of the Dead today. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, yes, in 49 minutes. I'm gonna try and get in and stream it.
Streamlabs. Well, on another unrelated topic, Tosh, I hope you're doing all right, buddy. That's all I'm going to say, but I hope you're doing all right.
Thank you. I hope you are as well.
I don't know if you guys could hear that.
Yeah, they can hear.
When the ladies were all crying. I'm just hoping that didn't transmit across.
Sorry.
And
sitting here racking my brain.
We're back. Looks like city's starting to, not city, Land of the Dead's starting to form up, so I'll probably try to get into it, but No, it's saying it's 100 to 199 on both sides in a tame, but it's not gonna change. It's just all it is a blob fest. They're slaughtering each other, running up a body count.
Well, that Eotane, it's the map design. I talked about that. I think the very first Realm Watch episode I ever did, I talked about that. But Eotane is just a very poor map design, and it kind of feeds that whole mentality and that whole sort of structure that you're talking about.
Could you maybe summarize the main points of what about the map design is so poor?
Too skinny, for one thing.
It's too linear, for one. Yeah, that too. The war camps are almost directly opposite each other, and there's an objective right in the middle between those two spaces, which draws everybody in like a magnet. And so you can have these, rolling fights back and forth in Eotane. And one reason that people want to do that or choose to do that is the respawn time. If you don't get a res, the respawn times for entire groups is a lot less than what you have in other zones. So, getting annihilated at the central objective doesn't take you out of the game quite as long as it does in a place like Dragonwake. Plus, there's a river that cuts the whole thing in half. And it's just poor map design. If anybody who listening by chance ever played any of the old tabletop games made by Avalon Hill or Strategy Simulations Publications Incorporated, who used to make a lot of tabletop strategy hexagon covered maps where you'd push the units around that represented your forces. They published a whole book on how to design a map for small unit combat or to reflect combat like that. And Eotane just breaks all the rules.
Basically, in a nutshell, with the way the map's laid out, there's no motivation to do anything other than just fight in the middle, because the players on both sides pretty much have it stuck in their heads. Oh, death match in the middle. They won't do anything else. And if anyone tries to disrupt that, trying to take objectives to push the zone, one side or the other will actually try to find a way to undermine it. They'll either throw a fight, or they'll back off, leave the zone, so that one side does get the upper hand, and then they'll double back. There's ways that they'll essentially fix the fight so that it keeps it going as a endless deadlock.
We just had both factions try and siege but a couple minutes ago, and it seemed like what I was experiencing inside of the region chat is people just saying no, that they don't want to participate, that they're allowing people to throw, and it.
Yeah,
I was trying to encourage them.
Yeah, they don't. What it is they don't want to disrupt the farm, because they're more interested in the KD body count. They want to run up their KD ratio. They're stat chasing. They're looking at their KD ratio, and they're like, nope, we want to get more kills. I hear it quite a lot out of order. I've had people in the past, they'll try to steal the RAM. If they can, they'll click the RAM and then run it off into PvE. It got bad a couple of years ago, to the point that Wargrimnir stepped in and said it in the RoR Discord. If you get caught doing that, you will be banned. That's his own words. He's like, if you take someone's RAM and run it off into PvE just to prevent a siege, to throw a fight, you're done.
But now they just don't support it.
Is it possible for us to create a a vicinity, so it is that you can get more XP, more RP for actually having fights around keeps. So it might incentivize people like 2 times RP gain for fights around a keep at a keep than it would be to be having this death match in the middle here. So is to maybe incentivize players to actually try and do a sieging, like whether they win or lose, whoever manages to get the wipe, they're going to get good RP and whatnot. But I mean, it would incentivize them to even try to actually succeed in the siege. Is that something that we could possibly implement? I mean, they're creating the tools now to be able to edit the maps and stuff, but I don't know if that's something that could be achieved.
There would be a way to do that.
Because I mean, that might encourage.
Yeah,
If
there would be a way to do that because it's already. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm hearing an echo, so sometimes I can't tell if I'm talking over you or not. I don't mean to talk over you. I put it that way.
You're good. You're good. No worries.
However, as to your point, though, there is a way to do that. They could create sort of a null zone algorithm because there are certain places around the realm can be turned on and off as far as whether or not they give renown or RVR zones or not. So again, not being a coder, at least a computer coder, but I can't see that it would be that difficult to just write a little algorithm that says, all right, in a place like Eatane, if you have a rolling fight back and forth over the same ground that takes place for X amount of time, or based on X amount of people, then renown just gets turned off for that little zone for a certain amount of time, which would then force people to go out and try to do other things. It's possible. I'm not saying, I know people won't like that idea. I mean, people are already foaming at the mouth, I'm sure, just because I mentioned it. But I'm saying it would be possible to do exactly that.
Because maybe the gearing system we have in the currency we keep in place, but there's other ways to incentivize people, carrot on a stick, to actually engage in trying to do the siege or the forts. Like if it's something as simple as being the guild mounts. If you succeed at winning a city or whatnot, you could actually go get a token for getting that mount that lasts a month, and you could get rewarded that way. So it's not going to be something that's like game breaking or creating a huge margin where some people might not be able to engage in city sieges, so they'll always be hindered in getting the best gear. But there is now just a little bit more incentive or more renown points for things like the keeps, forts, and such. So
I think it's a good idea, that you have, but I think the biggest issue is there just isn't the manpower to try to implement something like that currently available to the server. The server only has, really, as I'm aware, like 1 or 2 full-time coders. Everyone else that's part of the team is either going to be, let's say, a database manager or a communities manager or just a straight GM who just deals with cheaters, or he just deals with, making sure that the game is being played, that people aren't cheating, things like that. There really isn't a lot of people available to sit there and try to write code and try to whittle these quality of life situations out at the moment. It just isn't available because there's too many other things that the players want more. For example, they want Land of the Dead expanded. So that's a big one. We want Land of the Dead expanded. That's a big role for them. We're still waiting on the rework system. They've been working on that for 2 years, on the ability rework system. So it just takes them a really long time to try to implement even some of the smallest changes. So to have somebody say, you know what, let's go ahead and take a look at writing code where in every zone this can happen and this will trigger that, that's just too much time they just don't have available. Because again, all of these coders do it on as a passion project. So they're not dedicated to working 40 hours a week. They might only jump in on the code for 2 hours a week or 10 hours a week or whatever. They have no obligation that I'm aware of. So,
right.
It's really hard to try to ask for a lot of these quality of life when they just don't have manpower to do it.
Fair point. Fair point indeed.
That's something Max has said on one of my podcasts before, and they're also planning to be on the show more frequently. But yeah, Max has brought up before. That's why whenever he asks about getting stuff done, he doesn't set a specific date. Is because they've asked people to step forward, but unfortunately the problem that's happened is a lot of the people that say they want to join the team and help, they don't actually want to help. They want that little, they want their name up there and whatnot, but they don't actually want to put the effort.
It's just one of those situations where they just. I think what you want is something that a lot of players would want, and I would agree with that. They just don't have the manpower to implement it. They just don't. It took them so long just to gain access into the coding system that they have now, that they just don't have the manpower. For years they've been talking about asking for people that want to, join as a coder or whatever, and try to help out behind the scenes. It's hard to get people that want to do it or can do it.
Yeah, it's like with me volunteering to do quest writing for the game. I've done the kill collector quest for both factions, Destro and Order. I'm officially, I had to sign an NDA, so I can't discuss anything I officially work on when I'm asked to. But since that was already released, I can talk about it. So yeah, I do stuff to help the devs. I'm not part of the team. I'm just a player that donates his time to help them. So with these quest guides I'm doing, I'm working to help the community. But at the same time, I've also been asked by the devs to go through the PvE content and identify bugs and stuff reported in, because as a streamer, I can make live recordings of the bugs as they're happening, which helps the devs out tremendously. Because a lot of what happens is people will say, "Oh, I found a bug," but they're not very detailed about it when they report it, if they report it at all.
Unfortunately, on this server, and I haven't really played a lot of other private servers. I played a couple of them, but this server is basically a lot of the content has to be done by the player base in the form of kind of like server interaction and also server growth. So like the point of guide creation, like what Tothmonder's doing, well, that's on the player side. A lot of the things from, let's say, showcasing what the server can do, well, that's done on the player side. In the form of streams, in the form of like discords, in the form of like forums, things like that. That's all. A lot of that's done by the player side. So a lot of this stuff has to be done from the players, just because the staff isn't very big. They don't have the manpower to do a lot of those things. So we need a lot of players that can actually step in and be not just a player. They have to be more of a participant all the way around, and it's just hard to do.
It's very, very true. That's why I try to encourage people to help with not just PvE quest guides, but also PvP stuff. Make guides for tanking specs, for DPS specs, for healing specs. I'm like, it all helps. Trust me when I say this. New players will gobble that information up, because it helps them out when there's next to no information. The thing I hate them the most is when I sit there and see someone say, Google it. Half the information you will find on Google is so outdated, it's not funny. Some of it, yes, still is semi-accurate, but a lot of it is severely outdated, or is stuff left over from live. So, yeah, it needs overhauling. So
I think streamers, and I'm not trying to like say, oh, you know, look at me or give me any type of motivation because I'm a streamer, or because any of us are streamers in this chat. But I think streamers play a really important role for this server when it comes to showcasing what the server's about. There's a lot of people who come into streams brand new, thinking the game is shut down, and they just don't know how to ask questions in games. And a lot of times, streams are used to ask, hey, how do I, how is this done, or how is that done, or do you have any, or how do I find this add-on, or how do I find this? It's a lot easier for new people, I find, to interact in streams versus interacting in the game itself. Personally. So I'm actually quite happy that we're seeing more and more streamers join and actually potentially showcasing the game more, showcasing the server more, and also helping newer players have a place where they can interact and actually get an answer from a person that's not gonna end in a sarcastic tone, or B, get some assistance in other further questions without having to type it out and be bothering in game chat. I think streamers play a really big role in that.
That's true. I mean, and I've long since said this, and it's something that GameSpawn tried desperately to convince the other streamers when I first came on board. He tried to convince the streamers, you're the front line. People come to you first. They see you streaming, so can you help us advertise the server? To a lot of streamers at the time, unfortunately, didn't do that. They just looked at it as a tool to get their viewer numbers, and then leave with no thought of actually trying to help the community at all. That's slowly changed with some, but it still needs to be built upon. And you're right. Streamers are, we're the front line in regards that, we're the first thing people see. We're free advertisement for the server, and a lot of times, people will ask questions in the stream chats as opposed to in game, because they'll get a quicker answer, and because you'll have people from both sides. Somebody will know the answer.
Correct. So I find, again, it's just one of those things where I think having more streamers is a benefit. I don't view streamers as competition. I view them as, like just another component of the game where we can all interact, help each other, make the game more fun overall for everybody. That's why I like streaming. And that's why I find other streamers enjoyable as well. And I'm happy we're getting more and more streamers. I mean, there's almost every day now. There's almost 8 to 12 streamers streaming the game all the time, every day. So it's really good.
Yeah, it used to be. It was only ever a handful of us.
Yeah. I mean, there was times where we could go onto Twitch and there'd be no streamer, and you could log in, there'd be no one. Now at least almost 24/7, there's almost at least one person streaming 24/7, just about every single day. You might have 30 minutes here and there where there's nobody, at 2 a.m. NA time or something like that, but almost 24/7, you can probably find somebody who's streaming, who's willing to basically, A, they want to have a conversation, because streamers love conversations, and B, it makes the game more fun for them to have somebody they can interact with, and also maybe have helping somebody out that's also new. It's a lot of fun, I find.
Yeah, I'm about to try and queue up for Land of the Dead here in a minute. Showcase.
Well, streaming, it's a...
Go ahead.
Streaming isn't always fluffy, but rainbows and unicorns. There's a dark side to it, because sometimes it's a one-way street, and I'm not convinced. I'm just not. I'm not convinced that the powers that be that run this place are really thankful at all that people stream the game. I think they don't really pay any more attention to it At times, okay, I think at times they really don't pay any more attention to it than they would a bottle cap they throw in the trash can. It was just something that they had for a moment and needed to get rid of. No more. There's no more concern than that. And if that wasn't true, I'm going to say this, Toth, and I'm not trying to cause any trouble, but I'm going to say this. But if that wasn't true, I would still be doing Realm Watch. They would have started it up again by now. Because I made more than one offer. And as I said before, so, the fact that they have dug their heels in on some of these issues is just shows me that people doing things for the server, it's a one-way street.
For me, Karasana, in some ways, I agree with you. I think there is a little bit of, and unfortunately, I don't know this for a fact, but I think if you're put on some sort of, quote unquote list, that maybe you are less appreciated than other people. I don't feel that I'm more appreciated than anyone else. However, I do have the feeling though that when I stream, if something is amiss, and if something needs to be done about something, that I at least have the trust that I know who to go to, and they will at least let me know they've at least looked into it on some level. And so I have like a friendship relationship in that regard. I don't have any animosity towards any one of them, and I feel that, at least for me, there's a little bit of, maybe they trust what I'm saying, and I trust that they're actually doing this. So I feel a little bit of trust back and forth in that regard, if that makes sense. And I don't know if I would get that if I didn't stream. If I was just an average player who logged in and just played the game, I don't know if I would get that same feeling if I didn't stream.
Well,
if that makes sense,
a topic
anyway.
that would be better discussed elsewhere, but
I mean, you're probably correct, but since it was kind of brought up.
I get what you guys are saying, and it's the same thing I heard out of Fixer, and he had valid points, and I often get asked the same question. Why do you do all this stuff you're doing? You're getting no recognition. I never started this with the intent of getting anything out of it. I do what I can to try and help. Sure.
Well, Fixer is the perfect example, Todd.
I simply try to do what I can.
I've been over backwards, trying to promote the game, trying to promote the server, and you see what happened to him.
Kind of. But again, that's a different topic. I think it's a different conversation for a different place.
I'm just trying to say, I get what you're saying. I'm not deaf or blind to it. I'm fully aware of the fact, even with all that I've done, it means, in the grand scheme of things, it may mean very little, if anything, except to the player base, and I'm good with that. I didn't do it trying to curry favor with anyone. I did it because the player base came to me and asked for help. I inquired to the powers that be, and at the time they told me no one was doing anything with it, and they green lighted it and said go for it. So I did, and 2 years later, here I am. And yes, Realm Watch was good for the server, and I still think that it should be brought back, and I've showed support and made my comments for it. It just It's up to the powers that be at this point.
Well, I mean, to a kind of Toth. I mean, you and I, when we found out that Realm Watch was down, you and I think we can talk about this publicly because it didn't actually end up happening. But you and I were talking about doing some sort of, multi-stream player-based Realm Watch system. We were talking about doing something like that, and I was really, really open to doing it. What changed my mind was once we kind of started talking about it, then the too many players were saying, well, no, you got to think about other players and their privacy. Are you going to remove names? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Are you going to add delays now? Are you going to do all these things where now they wanted to have all these rules and adjustments because they don't want to have either a streamer or streamers showcasing the content as it's happening with names on. So at that point, I'm like, well, then it ruins the stream content for the viewers at that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, which I wouldn't do it anyway, because some of the people that come at me with that, I told them, I said, I don't care about whether you die or not.
Well,
you could never don't care.
Yeah. So at that point, I was like, well, I'm not going to do
You can never do Realm Watch from the ground.
Well, that's the other issue is well, I mean, you could do it from the ground from the standpoint of instead of doing it, showcasing the fights as they were happening from above air, you could do more of a showcase of warband play and have more of a concept of, let's say, Toth Monera could be playing Destro or Order, and I could be playing Destro, and we could kind of have a stream of where we can have a conversation back and forth, not relaying information, not giving details away, but trying to make a stream fun where we could talk about, what the battlefield looks like from our perspective of opposing forces. And they almost like, watching a football game and you have, Peyton Manning and something like that. That could work out and if you had 3 or 4 streamers all doing the same thing, then you could really turn into something special. Problem is that too much of the player base says no, because now you're showcasing our movements, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. So then it ruins that aspect of it, because then people want too much restrictions. And so I was like, never mind. It's not fun.
Well, I have 2 thoughts about that.
Go ahead.
Let me, and Toth, I'll try to behave myself here because this is this can be a sensitive topic, but my philosophy on that grew in part when I was doing Realm Watch is that this game has been around for so long. See, when I started doing Realm Watch, I had people complain because, okay, you're flying overhead, you're showing everybody what we're doing, we can't do anything in secret, so you need a longer delay. So I put a longer delay, and then people complained that the delay was too long, so I took the delay back down. And eventually I just adopted the philosophy that it doesn't matter what I do, someone is going to complain. And that's the truth. It doesn't matter what you do on streaming, someone will complain. So you just throw all that out, and I just started ignoring that, and I just started having fun during Realm Watch, and it was a much better show for that, right? I just did what I do, and it was a much better show. Now,
well, I think
the second thing is all these people in the guilds, the guild leaders, the warband leaders, when they start complaining about you're showing our secrets, you're showing our movement. How long has this game been around, guys? Since what, 2008 or something? The zones have never changed. We fought over the same territory time and time and time again. There is nothing that anyone can do with a warband in this game that hasn't been done 1,000 times already. And if someone out there has to stream snipe, if they have to stream snipe in order to try to figure out what the opposition is doing, then they got problems. And so I would just say, don't worry about that either. I mean, people want to moan and complain and cry and whine because, oh my God, you're streaming our position. How many times have you been in that position?
Well, I
So-
think it comes down to the streamer and what type of content they want to showcase, and who do they want to cater to. Do you as a streamer do you want to cater to the players that are in the game as you're playing with them? Do you want to cater to them, and do you want to play to them, or do you want to cater to your stream audience? Which one of those two is most important to you? Because one of those two is going to have to be chosen over the other. So either
The stream audience.
So either you cater towards your stream audience, and then you tell the game players you're not my concern, and then possibly deal with the repercussions of that in game, or you cater to the game players, and then your stream audience complains and they don't watch you and they don't support you. So it depends on whichever one the streamer wants to do. They have to pick a side. They have to. You can't play neutral otherwise. I mean, you can play neutral, but then, in my opinion, if you play neutral, then your stream then suffers either A, from quality, or B, from interaction.
Well, for me as a streamer, my concern's always going to be my streaming community.
Well, that's a question that each streamer has to answer for themselves.
I mean, if you don't take care of your community, you're basically just going to be streaming for yourself, and you can get very lonely.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying stream viewership should. I mean, okay, I'm not saying a streamer should be focusing on their viewership. At least I don't. I've said in the past, I don't care if I have one person in my viewership or if I have 1,000. What I want is to have interaction. So if it's one person, I don't care if it's one person interacting with me or if I have 1,000 people and 1,000 people are interacting, as long as they get the interaction. That's, to me, is what makes streaming fun, from my standpoint. Not how many people are technically watching me. Because you can have 100 people, you can have 1,000 people watching you, but if no one says anything, then it doesn't help your stream and what you're doing out, in my opinion, for me. So there are some streamers out there that are, I think, are 100% content with, and there's nothing wrong with it, having streams where you only have 5 people watching you. I think that's perfectly fine. And if that's what a streamer is okay with, then there's nothing wrong with that. As long as they're getting the interaction and the fun out of it with those 5 people, then that's fine.
Yeah, it's entirely what you're comfortable with. I go for chatting and entertaining people and talking to people. I'm no matter what game I'm playing in, but as far as worrying about some person in game complaining about, oh, I'm not you need to you better put it. You're not going to tell me what to do. I don't care. And if you try to harass me about it, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn around and follow you, and just to make a point. Because then, yeah, if you're going to sit there and accuse me of something, so okay, fine. I'll live up to it. And I've done that just to make a point. Did it with Ben and Tylak, Benny's warband. Because they ticked me off, because they kept on about it. I was like, oh, okay, fine. You want to run your mouth? Okay. And I had Destro sitting in my stream chat. I said, you guys want free kills? Here you go. And I followed Benny around. It was a slaughter fest. And I told Benny, I said, paybacks is not real fun, is it?
I've never done something like that.
To make a
but
point,
sometimes I wish I would.
To make a point, I will. Generally, I don't, though, for any reason. But if you sit there and badmouth me like what some of the guys in Benny did and talk behind my back, yes, I'm going to teach you a lesson. You're just not gonna like me, and I don't care. I frown upon doing such things, and I have not done it since. but I made my point
I don't
clear.
try to make people mad.
I've never really done anything.
I mean, when I
in-game.
stream and I happen, if I'm out solo, which I most often am.
Go, Kirasana.
Sorry, the echo, Tosh, is just there's a delay for some reason and an echo. It's hard for me to tell who's talking, but anyway. But when I'm streaming and I happen to wander upon a warband and I decide to follow the warband around a little bit, I'm not doing it to try to be detrimental to the warband, right? The entire purpose of streaming a game, to me, is limited to the following concerns. One, you're doing something that you enjoy to do, which I am. Two, you're trying to promote a game that you like, which I do. And three, you're trying to promote the gameplay for people who watch your stream who may not be part of the server, but they watch your stream and then decide to become part of the server, to join the game. And so I will sometimes follow groups around when I'm streaming just to get those kind of fights on the stream. Well, like I said, I'm not trying to make anybody mad when I do that. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes when I do that. But invariably, I do. And so would anybody else, because someone is always going to be mad. Always. You know, someone is always going to be mad. So I've just adopted this philosophy of screw them, and I'm going to go ahead and try to be entertaining and promote the Twitch, promote the server as best I can, and let the other chips fall where they may.
It was from an event, still works. Twilight. It was a Twilight event. You could still get the rings if you find a guild that has any extra rings left over, and you might be able to buy one off of them. They are tradable, but other than that, you'll have to wait for the event to come around again. But no, to be clear, I am not encouraging people to follow war bands and deliberately wipe them. I simply did what I did to teach Benny a lesson because they had done something that was insulting to me, and I wanted to settle the score. So I chose to retaliate. But how I do things is if I follow a warband, I DM the warband leader and I tell them, hey, I'm streaming. If you don't want your warband being seen, let me know and I'll wander off and not, I do respect their privacy. But Benny, I've got no respect for. None. Too many times I've been knifed in the back by him. I've tried to be reasonable. I've tried to be nice. I've even tried to discuss it out with them. And I'm at the point now, I could feed the entire bunch of them to Destro and watch them die to the man and don't care. And it takes a lot for me as a person to get to that point where I despise someone that bad. You gotta go pretty far out of your way to get under my skin to warrant me going that far. But they managed to do it, and but that's only with them. Anyone else, I'm very respectful to the privacy of their guild. So anyone else, even pugs, I'll tell them right off, I'm streaming. If that's a problem, let me know and I'll leave. So I do not encourage trolling. But all in all, I think we've had a very solid discussion on a lot of subjects, a lot of key things that have been lingering that haven't been said that needed to be said. What do you guys think?
Well, for me, Toth, a lot of these things have been said on some part or the other over the years or over some time for a while now. Maybe not in an exact context or exact way that we did today. But my biggest thing has always been though is that if a lot of these things are always being said, and if the players seem to agree with some or most of the opinions on the podcast, then why don't they ever just change and do it a different way?
Yeah.
Why does behavior not ever change then?
To that, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people are trying. The only thing I can think of, Tosh, is it's just not enough of us are trying that are able to make a difference, because there are people that are trying to make change, to make things happen, to see that change happen. Like you've said in the past, there's people that don't want, that they just don't care. They're perfectly content with seeing things stay just like they are, just as I've said.
I'll use a sports analogy here, if you don't mind, because this is actually, I was actually listening to a interview with a former NFL player about a week ago.
Go ahead.
And this was actually quite interesting to me, and this is actually what I think it relates a lot to this server as well, and that is this sports player said that he had multiple teammates, because he played on multiple teams, that once they met their financial objective of being part of that team, they didn't care what happened to the team afterwards. So once their contract had been met and they got all of their bonuses, they didn't care if the team won. They had no care about the team overall. It was just about money for them. That's all they wanted. And I feel that there's some people on this server that are the same way. They don't care about their guild or their alliance or other players. Just as long as they can get what they want, then everything else doesn't matter to them. And I'm not saying that's the majority of the player base, but all it takes is a small amount of people that can make and disrupt the game for a lot of other people. Just like on a sports team. If not everybody is invested on your team and one or two players don't care about what the outcome is, then potentially that team and those players, just like players on the server, could end up suffering in the end. And I think that's what happens.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, I think we're gonna wrap things up, because we're actually gone almost a full hour over what I normally do, and I'm starting to wear down.
No problem.
But I want to thank you guys for coming in and talking and being passionate.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me come in.
Always cares. I'm